No, 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 no.
Oh my God, you really did it.
Hey, we did it. Bep, bep.
I thought you were
Bep.
joshing us.
No, but he really did it. So when I was...
I want a collection of us being surprised by it every time, because every time we're like, no, it can't be.
It's a
and
constant delight.
Chief, how did you do that, you magician?
Do you have a video toaster? Oh, well.
He just did it again.
Whoa.
Chief is the best.
It's like
Whoa.
the 7 members of the chat who are old enough to know what a video toaster is.
I don't know what a video toaster is.
It was like the very early, it was like the first almost kind of consumer version of like, I can make the screen flip, like video editing system with like a couple fancy doodads.
Is that why there's video software called Toast?
Yeah, I believe so. It was like, it ran through an Amiga. It was just like it was the biggest mess ever. It was great. So.
Stay still, universe.
Like,
Stay still, reality.
Cut videos of our friends.
Oh, no.
Whoa! So
Video
true,
toaster. It's a whole thing.
So true story. When I was a kid, I used to love telling people I would leave. This is so dumb. I would leave class, like it'd be like 4th or 5th grade, and bell would ring, and I'd look at whoever was sitting next to me and be like, "Well, I'll be back tomorrow, same mat time, same mat channel."
That's amazing!
I did that all the time, and I had a little mat symbol. It was the bat symbol, but it was an M, so I like basically took.
Your personal branding was so strong.
That's
like
that's a bold move.
4th grade super nerdy me.
That's a bold move.
I was like, same mat time, same mat channel. And they're like, wow, what a dork. Get the headgear off, kid. Yeah.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
Teenage me would just be like, I wonder what that kid would be like drunk. I want to find out.
You know now.
Now I know. Pretty psyched about the results, to be honest.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Wednesday Club. My name is Matt Key. I'm joined, as always, with my 2 lovely, wonderful co-hosts who are some of my favorite people in the world.
Sit in a chair, Matt.
I'm excited. I'm so excited for tonight.
Riker all over that chair there.
It's amazing.
Yeah, no, Riker would do this. Riker would come and be like,
It's so unfair
Hey,
that you can
everybody,
Riker into any chair.
I'm Riker.
Yeah.
I can Riker into like 3% of chairs.
Small stools.
Yeah, but I don't fit in some parking garages, so it.
You know, there's a balance.
There's a balance to the universe, and Thanos knew it.
I am really excited about today's episode because
too.
Matt pitched us this ages ago, and it is the coolest idea ever. And if you just saw the title, then we lied to you. Except we didn't.
Except we didn't.
Except we didn't. It's a play on that word.
Yeah, because we are not today discussing the Frank Miller, Dave Mazzucchelli reinvention of Batman's origin for the 80s, known as Batman Year One.
Which is, I love that book, by the way. I legitimately do love that book.
Mazzucchelli's amazing.
Yeah.
It's got a lot to love in there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. It revamps the Batman mythos in a great way. Like, I legitimately love that book. But that's not what we're talking
But
about.
that's not what we're talking about today.
But then what are we talking about today?
We are talking about Batman Year One. And that translates as May, actually April, but May of 1939 to May of 1940.
Yay!
What did Batman have in place, and what did Batman still have missing after 1 year of development?
It was fascinating reading this shit.
It's
So much fun.
fascinating. It is super fascinating. But before we get into it,
Yeah.
we've got some Daily Wednesday to do.
Daily Wednesday.
Daily Wednesday. Do we get to see the spin, Chief? No spin.
All around.
Are we that spoiled that we don't appreciate our beautiful animated intro?
No, I appreciate the intro.
And we got the spin.
And we got the spin. Wow.
It's good.
Chief and producer Liz are all about it.
Yeah.
Ah.
Aww.
All right, let's see.
Get my Pop-Tart.
Yeah, get that Pop-Tart, boy.
What?
All right. What?
Nope, go
What?
on.
Okay.
I can always tell that you've been hanging out with Manzi, like Weekend with Manzi, and all these things just slip.
Yeah,
into your
we saw her on Saturday at our
boy.
Burning Man get together. We had a little Burning Man get together, and
Post that ridiculous picture of me in my swimsuit. I'm very pleased.
dude, it's a great swimsuit. You broke that out and the party started.
Yeah, no, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a 1930s, so like a Sweeney Todd style black and white stripe, like strongman.
A bathing costume?
Oh yeah, I got one. I'm like very proud of it. This is awesome. It's like we're going a little off.
Chief. All right, Daily Wednesdays. Okay to read on air. This came from Aaron. Hello, Aaron.
Hi, thank you.
I'm going to read your letter. Last week was the first time I watched the show.
Welcome.
although I had been wanting to start for a while. And I believe producer Liz did the research, and this is from the Raina Telgemeier episode.
Excellent.
Yes.
So she's referring to that one. I was actually going to catch up with Weave Society when I saw that this was on. There you go. And I decided to bite the bullet. I was introduced to comics at birth as my grandparents owned a comic shop for 30 years before they retired. Oh my God, your grandparents are amazing!
That's adorable.
My father has also written RP sets, including one for Indiana Jones that we saw at Disney World one time. Super cool to see.
That's awesome.
Wait, she has an exclamation point. Super cool to see!
Perfect.
So really, I had no chance genetically not to be a nerd. Congratulations, you were raised in the right family. Where my family may have failed me, though, was their emphasis on superhero comics, as that's what they read. However, I never really found them appealing, so I never really explored them until later on. Last week's episode really connected with me because I feel that's something I would have loved to read when I was younger. I'm glad to see that there's more attention being drawn to non-superhero comic graphic novel creators and the works themselves. Super glad I ended up watching, and I feel this is going to become a part of my weekly schedule from now on. Aaron. Yay! Welcome to the Wednesday Club, Aaron.
Yeah.
That episode was a revelation for me as well.
Yeah.
I really broadened my horizons pretty intensely.
Yeah, well,
Even
like,
I, who set out already excited, went like, God, it's even better than I realized.
It's so
Yeah.
much better.
yeah, Raina Telgemeier she's good. She's very good.
Us and 10 years of runaway success and millions of books later, and we're all figuring out
Here we
the
are.
deal. But
Well, you know, it's like I'm gonna date myself, but it's like whenever I hear like new like internet slang, like a month ago I learned like thirst or whatever. I'm just like, oh, that's what the kids are saying. Oh my God, I said that's what the kids are. Oh my God, I'm not. It's just like that logical,
we need
like,
the
oh
spins
God.
back for this series of revelations.
I heard that you were going to date yourself and immediately like, are you going to go out for sushi in a movie? Like,
No, I do that.
I know.
No, when Brittany goes out of town, I'm like, what movie do I want to go see just by
date
myself? Like, because I love going to see movies by myself.
I'm 2 movies
So.
behind right now.
Though not to be confused with, I don't love going to see movies with Brittany. I do. My lovely wife is lovely, and I love seeing movies.
I'm
with her.
curious if she's going to show up in chat yelling at you. Well,
I would like to check in with you because I ran in a little late before we were starting. We have this letter, which we could read now, or we could save it if the pictures are, depending whether the pictures are ready.
Producer, yep, they're ready.
We're good?
Oh, yeah,
they're ready. Yeah.
Excellent.
this was
They're,
nuts.
they're 100% ready. Go for it. Some of you probably know what we're already talking about.
But I haven't read the letter yet.
The chat's still on Aaron Hype, so we'll get there.
Oh, yeah.
Wednesday's MCM London Comic-Con meetup.
Blew our minds. Amazing.
The post-con write-up from Wednesdays of Discord. So hopefully we saw some pictures online, and we got, I think, permission from I'm Still In, to share some of their adventures this weekend.
Amazing.
I don't want to miss any of them,
Those
so tell
pictures
me
were
if they show up.
amazing.
But I will read the letter that was sent to accompany them to sort of contextualize it for us, because like, y'all have to just see this. Hi, Amy Dallen, Matt. Cillian here to provide a little context for the meetup. We organized on the Discord and managed to get the people there by having people flying in, staying with locals. Stay with locals.
Amazing.
I myself flew in from Denmark and stayed with my musical partner in crime, Nick Siepman.
Awesome. I bet they wrote plenty more songs for us.
No pressure, but, you know, let us know.
Yeah.
All in all, we were people from all over Europe, representing Denmark, Norway, France, and the UK, with a few relocated Australians as well.
Wow.
Kato and Az made T-shirts.
Yep.
Oh, I saw. Amazing.
And librarian Liz passed on Daisy enamel pins while she was in London a while ago.
Oh.
So Daisies were the theme of the day. We had meals together, did an escape room, which we crushed, in parentheses.
Yeah, of course you did.
We
Your
expected nothing
Wednesdays.
less.
Yeah.
And wandered around trying desperately to find Barbara Gordon merchandise.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
One of the best weekends I've ever had. When I created the Discord 1 year ago tomorrow,
What?
together with Symphoria, I had not anticipated that I would find friends for life. What a great, diverse, nerdy, creative group of people. What a wonderful year it's been. So before I start gushing without abandon, let me finish with this. Here's to the Wednesdaisies. Wednesdaisies means friendship, and Wednesdaisies never say die.
Nice. Oh my God.
Best wishes, Sil.
Look
Oh
at it.
God, it's glorious.
I'm so pleased.
Unbelievable.
I want to hug every single one of you forever.
And this is the group shot. I see a Constantine in there for sure.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
that's solid.
Those were two who I didn't have passes, but were meeting up with them.
Oh my God.
The backs of the shirt.
Oh, I love it.
Oh my God, that's.
Oh my God, you all have your names on it?
that's
Oh my
typed
God, that's so
right to
cool.
poetry.
I didn't notice that when I saw it earlier. Oh my God, that's so cool.
I'm so pleased. I'm so
Yeah.
pleased.
Oh my God, Kung Fu Panzer.
Thanks.
That's a lot.
That is.
We're very,
that is,
very happy.
Yeah, that is humbling.
Thank you for taking care of each other.
Yeah, I don't even know how to process that. Like, how are we the fulcrum for that?
And I see your PS, but don't worry about it, Sil.
I want to see the PS.
They're working on more songs.
Perfect. No, you're not supposed to say there's a PS. That's the us.
I mean, I wasn't.
I don't. It wasn't a BCCPS.
A BC.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We're so glad y'all had a great time. And also, just on a purely selfish note, I was so relieved that we had finally done at least one European comics episode before they all got together to be like, why don't they know our continent exists?
It's in. We're trying to get a panel at Comic-Con, so if you were kind of on the fence about going, we're trying.
It's not
but if you were,
official.
it's not official
Not
yet. But
happening yet.
You can't stop me from going, what?
what? You're right. But we've submitted. So if you're on the fence about going to Comic-Con, maybe in San Diego in July, maybe start looking to go. So.
Actually, I have some ideas I will float at you once we are no longer on the internet.
Ooh.
You just put an idea in my ear. It was quite nice. It just
Well,
went
let
up
me know
there.
when it hits your brain.
Yeah,
and let's
like
talk
a little
about
worm
it.
from Star Trek. It'll get there.
Oh, God.
Chekhov's worm. It's,
By the way, terrified me when I was a kid.
Oh, that-
but when you go
Terrifies
back,
everyone.
when you go back and look at it, you can tell that it's like a model, and it's like it's probably
can
an
you?
ear that's the size of this table, and it's a dude in a worm
memory,
suit.
It's extremely real.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was that was
It's
nightmare
actually
inducing.
no, it's awful. I hated worms for years after Wrath of Khan. But if you go back and rewatch it now, I think they might be on Showtime or Stars. If you have that app, you can watch them. That's how TV works. And the model is just that's very clearly a model.
I
Okay.
was also thinking of the next gen brainworms, which were.
Oh,
also
I'm not even.
terrifying.
Yeah, those are also terrible. I'm thinking of Wrath of Khan.
I'm so pleased.
Brainworms.
Brainworms. All right.
Welcome to the Wednesday Club. Brainworms.
Hey, everybody. Talk about brainworms. All right. Today we're going to talk about Batman.
There's actually a segue here because if an earworm is a catchy song that has sort of stickiness in the Malcolm Gladwell terminology, then a brainworm would be an idea that sticks around
Oh.
and has a great deal of
Yeah.
resonance. And one of the all-time 20th century brainworms is Batman.
It's Batman.
Okay, go.
Well done.
Brainworms.
Well done, Enthusi Amy. We're going to talk about Batman, but here's the deal. We're only going to talk about the very first year of Batman. That covers Detective Comics 27.
What's
Which-
Detective Comics 27?
Detective Comics number
Like, why are you saying
27?
27 if it's the beginning of something?
Yeah, that's weird. So
It's not even called Batman. What are you talking about?
When comics first came out, they were anthologies. So they would be 60-page anthologies or 40-page anthologies, and they would have several stories in them. Batman was one of several stories in it. In fact, let me see.
You can buy Detective Comics 27 on Comixology. It is 7 pages long. Because
Yeah,
the whole
it's
book apparently
nothing.
hasn't made the cut. So you.
But I will tell you right now.
Yeah, the
what
first
was
the first
in-
few issues are just double, or just the Batman stories, but from 2 issues worth. So it's only
Yeah.
10 pages. But then later in Detective Comics, they start filling in some of the back, like the Spy, and there's a few other ones.
Yeah, so in Detective Comics number 27, the official publication date is May of 1939, but it hit stands in early April, late March, early April.
This is a magazine thing. If you date it ahead of time, people think it's new for longer, so it's just been long customary to have
Yeah.
it come off earlier than the stated
So
date.
the very first Batman story ever, May of 1939, Detective Comics number 27, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate. So we've got chemicals in Batman all the way back to the origin. Like, and I say that because there's always like Ace Chemicals and Joker falls on. He's like, oh, I'm the Joker now.
A vat of acid prominently featured.
But also in that was Speed Saunders in The Killers of Kurdistan, Buck Marshall in Bullet Bluff, Bart Reagan, Spy, The Mysterious Murders, The Crimson Adventurer, Murder on the Oceanic Line Docks, Bruce Nelson, The New Orleans Mardi Gras Murders, Part 1, The Insidious Dr. Fu Manchu.
Exactly what you expect.
What's that?
That's exactly what you expect.
Yep. Cosmo, the Phantom of Disguise in Illegal Aliens, and Slam Bradley, the Murderer on Vacation. Those were all in Detective Comics number 27.
You don't want this one? We got that one. You don't want that one? We got this other thing. Maybe you will enjoy pages 15 through 20.
Yeah. So, and then when you get to volume 28.
Actually, 27 is free on Comixology. That's an improvement over my claim that you have to purchase it. So take my complaining about it only being 7 pages long.
This was not an expensive week for me.
No.
This was pretty easy.
And Detective Comics 28, June of 1939, you get Speed Saunders again, you get Buck Marshall, you get Bart Reagan Spy, you get the Crimson Avenger, you get Bruce Nelson, you once more get the Insidious Fu Manchu, you get Cosmo the Phantom of Disguise, and you get Slam Bradley again.
It was spy-wise or detective-wise, it was a very popular genre at the time. Was like, you know, like rich socialite from Asia comes and solves crimes in America. Yeah.
And detective, I'm just like listening to you. I'm building to a point. Detective Comics 29, July of 1939. Bart Reagan is in it again. Crimson Avengers in again. Speed Saunders, Bruce Nelson, Cosmo the Phantom of Disguise, and Slam Bradley versus Chang and Hiroto. But you have Larry Steele, private detective, in The Murder of Ace Mullins. You get a new one, right?
Where are you going?
I'm excited.
I know.
Here's the only point I'm trying to make. Batman was one of a number of stories. One of a number of stories that repeated in multiple anthology comics, which is why it was such a big deal when he got Batman #1 almost 1 year later. Like, Batman #1 comes out April of 1940, and he started in April of 1939. Same thing with Action Comics #1. Action Comics
about a year before.
Was 1938, right? And there were other stories in that one as well. And Action Comics #2 had multiple stories. Action Comics #3 had multiple stories. But then Superman gets his own book. What? And what's even weirder about that, not weird, just different, is that Batman #1 had 4 stories in it. There were 4 Batman stories. So, like, even then, it's still not the comic books that we're familiar with. And I think that's fascinating. So we're going to look at 27 through, I think, 39, as well as Batman #1. And we're going to get to May, June of 1940 and say, what does Batman have and what is he still missing?
I may have done some extracurricular reading as well.
Do you need to start with that? Because there's a little bit.
Well, the one thing I want to talk about before we go anywhere that I actually want to ask you is I want to talk about the fact that Batman was not a unique idea.
Oh, it's not. It's so not. It's really funny how much it's not.
Batman was a character in a genre, and the genre of masked
Tell us,
detective.
what's a pulp?
Oh, so pulps were, oh wow, so yeah, boy, thank you for, pulps were basically these trashy novels that were sold very inexpensively because they were printed on very, very cheap paper that people would just roll through super, super fast, and they tended to be.
You get it when it basically turns back into a pulp.
Yeah, it just they dissolve in water.
Cheap paper. Yeah.
But there were characters. But the Masked Vigilante was a pulp standard, and there were characters like the Shadow was a much more popular.
Massively popular.
Hugely
who knows
popular.
what evil lurks in the hearts of men.
And he started as a radio show, right?
Started as a radio show. There was the Phantom. There was the Spider. I think Dr. Midnight hit around this time as well. There was a bunch of them. But then in 1933, well before Batman, there was the Black Bat.
Yes.
I don't know the Black Bat.
The Black Bat was a pulp hero.
Is it the hero who keeps getting rebooted now, like over at Dynamite?
Yep, he's now public domain because the poor Black Bat did not survive as long as Batman did, and there was also some legal contention because it was a man basically in a Batman suit. It was Batman. It was basically yet another it was Batman and the Black Bat, and the Black Bat was a series of detective novels, of pulp novels, rather than comic books. Yeah, I think I have it in the system too, but.
A new detective novel.
But this,
And we can discuss this another time, but there are a number of literary precursors to this sort of masked Avenger figure. Everything from the Scarlet Pimpernel with the double identity to the Mask of Zorro with the double identity.
Well, and Zorro is quoted by Bob Kane as inspiration for Batman.
in several versions of the origin, well,
Side note, we'll get into who created Batman.
Batman. But
Yep, exactly.
So Black Bat was 33 and 34 and then brought back again in 39. And then there was definitely a bit of a legal contention about, because they basically started publishing the second Black Bat books practically on top of Batman.
Ah.
And so it was one of those things where I think it was, I like to take the benefit of the doubt and just assume there was something in the atmosphere. Like some days you wake up and there's 4 Frankenstein movies and no one knows why.
Well, it's like
There was
when there
something in
was
the
like
air.
Deep Impact and Armageddon in the same year,
Yeah.
or like Volcano and whatever the other one was. Yeah.
And like one of the big contentions that they had that Batman was not the Black Bat were the little things on his arm. And that was like, so that's like literally been one of those details that's always been there.
Can't take it away.
Because it was part of like the copyright claim. Black Bat was interesting. It was basically the same character. It went public domain. It has now been picked up. Like anyone can do anything with it now.
They tried to revitalize it as a comic.
Dynamite did that, I
Dynamite,
believe.
right? Yeah, not too long ago.
But also, DC picked up the name and created a Black Bat of their own, which is Cassandra
Kane.
Is named after the Black Bat now.
Former Batgirl.
Former
Oh,
Batgirl.
I did not
now
know
the Black
that.
Bat.
I did not know that.
It's a good-
Dana Carvey, Johnny
as a-
Carson, yeah, everyone just
Yeah.
dating myself. Speaking of,
It was an interesting little love note to the genre, and I thought that would be an interesting thing to throw in there.
so part of this idea came from me reading a book by Glenn Weldon called The Caped Crusade. It's
I have not read it yet. I like him very much. He's a good
mwah.
writer.
It is fantastic. The audiobook is narrated by the author, and he's very animated and knows like he wrote it in his voice, so it's perfect. But it's about how Batman and fan culture, like not even Batman culture, just fan culture in general, like comic book fan culture, pop culture, pop fan culture, can be kind of like measured up to the Batman metric, to the Batman timeline of when he was created, and the late 30s into the 40s, what the war did to him, how the fans responded to Ellsworth coming in as an editor and starting to change things up because he wanted to make it more kid-friendly versus what Sullivan, who was the editor, Gilbert, I don't know, Gilbert and Sullivan.
Gilbert and Sullivan?
I think the last name was Sullivan. Like he was like, yeah, dark, gritty, detective, yes. And then Ellsworth is like, these are being read by kids. Can we throw like a teen sidekick in there? And Ellsworth, by the way, also was taking over the Superman radio show at the time.
I'm curious.
And he was completely changing the radio
what's the
show
timeline
too.
on these?
So Ellsworth starts taking over around Detective Comics 38, which is where Robin comes in.
Okay. That's within a year of the start, because I know like.
Well, Sullivan
does
had
DC
been-
start. Does Batman start at DC or at like what would be
National Periodical.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, this super deep cut, DC is named after Detective Comics, but when they first started in the 30s, oh my God, I'm forgetting their names, but it was National Periodical. Oh my God, I used to. These names are like in the back of my head. I'll
I
remember
know
in a second.
we've learned and then forgotten again this Golden Age hero a number of times. But about a year earlier, Malcolm William Nicholson had gotten together with.
That's who I'm trying to
Jack-
remember. Is it Leibowitz, I think?
I think it is.
Jack Leibowitz, who became like almost the sole owner of, like, he was ruthless. That dude, he was the one who made the Superman deal for $120. That was him.
Yeah.
That was him.
That's so dark.
And the partner who actually owned National Periodical, whose name I'm blanking on, that's what I'm like beating myself up for, is that I can't remember that name. But
Donenfeld, Wheeler Nicholson, somebody else?
maybe it's Donenfeld. It might be Donenfeld, yeah. Let's go with Donenfeld. Just because we need. Let's go with
I
Donenfeld.
meant to refresh all of this knowledge before this episode.
Oh man, I'm so off course now. I'm so in the weeds.
Comics have just been invented. Everybody's trying to make
Yeah.
money fast. There has been one breakaway insane hit as of April 1938. We just celebrated the 80th anniversary of it with Action Comics 1000.
And Bendis just had his first
Today.
today.
Man of Steel
I
number
need to
one.
call. I
go
haven't
pick
read
it up.
it yet.
I
I'm
need to go
very
pick it
excited.
up. Do you know if your store is sold out? 'Cause
I did not. I'm
need to-
assuming
I
we
might
made
run
it
by
to the day,
tomorrow.
but I'm not totally sure.
I'm going to run by tomorrow and hope that there's a copy.
So they've had a big hit in the form of action, but they're still they're throwing everything in the wall. They're using the genres that are already very popular in other formats. Radio is huge.
Radio's
Pulp
huge.
magazines are huge. Not much else exists yet. Movies exist, but I'm not sure if the serials were doing that much with adventure at that point. I'm not sure how things were in the late 30s.
You mean like the film serials?
Yeah.
That I actually don't know. I do know that the Superman film serials started around as early as 41, 42, I think.
That sounds right.
And the radio show was
Before that.
As early as
before
40,
that.
right?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe.
They saw the Superman.
fast.
They were like, Superman's doing what? Yeah, let's
Oh,
get
yeah.
it all out. Let's
Like,
get
Superman was selling novelty
like
pretty
they cranked that machine fast. Yeah, Donenfeld and Leibowitz. I think that's who it was. Yeah.
So a host of imitators at the same places and elsewhere, just being like, what else are people into? You like action? We know you like action. You also love detective stories.
Yeah, detective stories. So, so Superman comes out in 1938. That's a whole other episode that I've already got. I'm starting to plant seeds of it in my head right now because I'm excited for that one now. But he comes out in 1938 and is an immediate hit. And National Periodical, who goes on to become DC later, Donenfeld and Leibowitz go out to all the writers that they know, writers and artists, saying, "We need who's our next Superman?"
Oh, and we should say that these shops, in part, even though comics were just being invented in the way we know them, a lot of studios and writers were already out there because everybody was trying to write the next hit comic strip. Comic strips were
That's where the money was at.
huge. People like the creators of the big ones were rock stars, and that was the creators of Superman were trying to sell it to the newspaper syndicates to be put in papers for people to read, as this other form kind of got invented.
Was accidentally invented. It was invented as a sales gimmick. They were given away for free. Famous Funnies #1 was given away for free.
Yeah.
And it's hey, this is kind of neat. Let's do a few more of these. Maybe we can sell them for 10 cents. What do you think? Oh my God, people are buying them for 10 cents? Holy moly.
They did not have home Xerox machines, but if they had, they could have just cut out the middleman.
Yeah. Yeah. So
The movies were doing strong. I was just looking it up, and actually, funny enough, one of the biggest, it was reminding me, 34, the biggest hit of 1934 was a Dashiell Hammett adaptation. Detective stories, even in film, were a big genre.
Film noir was huge at the time. So Superman comes out. Donenfeld and Leibowitz at National Periodical, who were the #1 comic book publisher at the time, they want their next Superman. So they go out to everyone, and a gentleman by the name of Robert Kane comes up with the Batman.
The Bat-Man.
Yeah, the Bat-Man. Maybe it's hyphen, maybe not. We're not going to really settle on it for about 5 issues. Sometimes there's a hyphen, sometimes there's not.
It's the third or fourth story. The hyphen's still in the title, but it's fallen out of the story.
Yeah.
That was one of my notes where I was like, oh, hyphen disappeared.
Yep. So I've got some. So the Shadow, which I actually didn't know that until I was doing research. Shadow starts off as sort of like the Crypt Keeper in the radio shows.
Yeah, he's just a
I
host.
did not know that. He was like, and here's your next story, and everyone's like, who's this Shadow guy? Screw the rest of this.
Well,
I don't care. Who's the Shadow?
The Shadow had a very, very talented voice actor, of course.
Who did the voice, you know?
Who did
Orson Welles?
That was Orson
the
Welles.
voice of
Well,
the Shadow.
right, of
Yep.
course.
Who knows what
That-
evil?
We should get Mercer
Yep.
in here.
Who knows
what the evil
It basically,
Shadow
it's the brain from Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah.
Was
So he becomes
Yes.
hugely popular. Detective Story magazine goes out to some writers asking, "Hey, will you create the Shadow for Detective Story magazine?"
I got excited and jumped on. Did you get a chance to explain that what you meant by he's like the Crypt Keeper, in case anybody doesn't know what that means?
Oh yeah, Crypt Keeper, he's between all the stories in Vault of Horror and stuff like that from the EC
the
comics.
host of the Twilight Zone, or what other are there? Do we have that kind of show?
We don't really have anthology stuff too much
Anthology's
anymore.
kind of
Yeah,
dead these days.
but he essentially introduced the story, and then that story would end, and then he would introduce the next story.
Darren DePaul and Sagas of Sundry.
Yay!
Yay for the
I
Geek and
brought it
Sundry
home. Boom.
audience. Yeah. So Detective Story Magazine asks some of their writers to create a shadow pulp magazine. There's some artwork that goes along with some of those stories. Imitators immediately come out: Crimson Adventure, Green Hornet, Phantom Detective, who, according to the Glenn Weldon book, is, because I've never read it, so I'm going completely off of his research, but Phantom Detective was a wealthy man who could be summoned from his hideout by a beacon.
Nice.
So immediately what you start to see when you get Batman is...
For the record, that is the same Green Hornet you've heard of.
Yeah.
What you start to see when you dig deeper and deeper and deeper into this is that Batman is the genesis of, ooh, the Phantom Detective has a signal. All right, that's pretty cool. The Shadow fights at night. That's pretty
it's
cool.
really it's the last man standing. He's the king of the he's king of the junk pile by the very, very end.
He really is. So like Bob Kane and Bill Finger.
Who's Bill Finger?
Who's Bill Finger?
I said it. I knew you were going to ask that way. I was like, here comes Amy. I can't wait for it.
I feel like that's my job today. I'm very excited about this episode.
So
Leading question, Tokyo.
So Bill Finger, by the way, fantastic. If you haven't seen it, Batman and Bill, the documentary on
I've been hearing
Hulu.
all about it, but
I was crying by the end of it.
Oh.
Like, it is so fantastic.
Okay.
They know why I'm saying that, and now I'm going to tell you, the daisies. So Bill Finger, okay, here's the deal. Back in the day, like, we saw, sorry, I'm getting ahead, like, I have so many thoughts.
So I should say, from 1938 until 2015, anything that you saw with Batman printed in it, in a step that stood out to a lot of us growing up reading comics, because it was in an era where it was very unusual for anyone to get credit for their comic book creations. There was sort of this
Siegel, Schuster, and Superman.
There was this notable exception. Like, mostly you'd look at old stuff and there'd be no credits at all. Or, you know, it was very rare to see, like, a created by credit. And the weird glaring exception to that was that every Batman story, movie, book thing you ever saw said, Batman, created by Bob Kane.
Mm-hmm, by Bob Kane. So now here's, okay. Bob Kane goes to his friend Bill Finger and says, hey, National Periodical is looking for the next Superman. I have an idea, and I'm going to name him Batman. Here's Batman. The original drawings that Bob Kane presented to Bill Finger no longer exist, but the descriptions of them, and Chief, I sent this to you late, so you may not have that picture, and that's on me. I forgot to submit it earlier. I emailed them to you. But the original conception for Batman was a reversal of Superman's costume. So Batman, by Bob Kane's drawing of Batman, was a man in a red leotard or unitard, like a union suit, with a domino mask, and giant bat wings, like ribbed bat wings, like sort of like an umbrella-ish looking bat wings. And that was it. Bob Kane was like, I've got this character named Batman, and he fights criminals at night. And Bill's like, this guy fights criminals at night? Okay, listen, no. If he fights at night, we got to get rid of the red. Let's give him black, let's give him gray, like darker colors, because he's fighting from the shadows. Bob, what the fuck, man? Stop it. Those
Artist
wings.
interpretation.
Yeah, this is me. This is not me direct.
Bob, what the fuck, man? Is what, yeah.
Bob, what the fuck, man came.
Hey!
Yeah. So this is not the actual
It's not the
drawing.
picture,
This
but-
is based on descriptions. This is what another artist's reinterpretation of the original Bob Kane. Doesn't look anything like the Batman that we know, right? The Batman that we know came almost entirely from Bill, and that is the black suit, the cowl, the bat symbol, the cape. Fighting at night, Gotham, the Batmobile, like.
We're gonna have to talk
We should
about
acknowledge that
Yeah.
Gotham is an interesting thing to invent, because originally the stories are in like a just city, and then they say Manhattan
They
at some
do.
point.
I was like,
Yeah.
Manhattan.
It is
Yep.
now confusing to the young people, but Gotham used to just be a term that meant New York City.
Yep.
So it's like, when you talk about inventing Gotham, there's some weird fuzziness there, because the comic book Gotham is its own wonderful, distinct thing with the floating locations, sometimes mapped to New York, sometimes to Chicago, sometimes to other places.
I had it described to me as occasionally it's the New York City's Arcadia. It's kind of the Feywild version of New York. It's Gotham is just all of the myths of what an East Coast metropolis the darkness
Yes.
of an East Coast
It's a
metropolis.
dream dreamed by
Yeah.
the city.
Yeah.
But here's where this
Continue.
kind of gets a little tricky, is that while Bob Kane was certainly not a great guy, there was also a sort of like, that was kind of the way things almost worked in a way. Because like even Will Eisner had a studio where like he got credit for the stuff, but he had like 3 or 4 or 5 other people working on the comics for him because he was cranking out so much that he kind of became sort of like the creative director for his own brand. And it was like, well, this is an Eisner story and this is an Eisner story. And it's almost like he is separate from that name. And there's almost an element of that with Bob Kane. The problem is that Bob Kane was only really doing it with one person. And every once in a while, like Gardner Fox would come in, or Jerry Robinson, like a few other people kind of traded in and out. But Bob Kane was typically only working with 1 to
Dick
2
Sprang.
people, Dick Sprang, at a time, and then still continuing to take full credit. He was paying them, but still taking full credit for it.
And what's weird is that later on we would all be like, it's what should seem like a groundbreaking thing to us in terms of the fact that like attaching any names at all to this and thinking that that has value should have been sort of like a forward-looking model for the rest of the industry to follow. But instead, this very early example of it is like this guy was smart enough to secure a deal that they had to give him credit, which is the kind of thing we would cheer over, except that we happen to know it then erased everybody else's credit because you legally couldn't like acknowledge their
well, and then
contributions.
like Bob Kane also seemed to revel in all of the attention and really did not want to share it. And he didn't share any of the wealth. He didn't share, because he, like on top of the byline credit, he also got like a percentage of sales, and like he was like in on the TV show. He was he got like created by credit on that. Like, so
Wow.
he was getting money all over the place. And all he did was create Batman. By the way, Black Bat already existed, and The Bat already existed, and a movie. Oh God, what was it called?
Oh.
Now
I
he
may have forgotten to write it.
drew
write
a
it
lot of the
down.
early stories, right?
Yes,
Ish.
but and again,
The
Chief,
Bat Whispers.
The Bat Whispers. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I
What was
probably
that?
forgot to do this.
The movie, The Bat Whispers.
Though he did draw it, Detective Comics. So yeah, so the Bat Whispers partially inspired the look of Batman, according to Bob Kane.
Makes sense.
Let's see, I have it down here. Bob Kane traced Detective Comics 27 from a Flash Gordon comic from 1917, or a book from 1917. And again, Chief, I think I sent these to you. I don't know if I got them to you in time, though.
I had heard the story was from a Shadow thing, but
So Bill Finger took elements of the story for the Case of the Chemical Syndicate
Yeah.
from Partners of Peril by Theodore Tisley.
okay.
But they were everyone. That was the culture. That's what
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everyone did.
Everything's
so like
a remix, but like
everything
on-
was remixed
on
and like just kind of reskinned in a way.
It wasn't
you know?
nice, it wasn't fair, but it was normal.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
So what's the Flash Gordon thing? Because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the Flash
So
Gordon one.
the Flash Gordon one. So Bob Kane traced a lot of the first issue, the Case of the Chemical Syndicate,
Yeah.
from a children's book called Gangbusters in Action, and the God, I forgot to write it down. I'm beating myself up.
You can-
Gangbusters is a technical crime term that really.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Nice.
that's
Yeah. So this is Gangbusters in Action. On the
Wait.
top,
That's actually 33 with the origin.
yes,
So he's
Yeah.
still doing it by that point.
Bob Kane did that exclusively.
That's-
He always did that.
that's the
Okay.
first image, by the way. So the first image of Thomas and Martha Wayne in any comic book ever was
them
stolen, was traced. Okay.
Now,
Wow.
that's not that I don't want to diminish what he did, because
No.
he did add his own flair to it, like and
By
everything
the
else.
second or third issue, you get some pretty striking shots in terms of the use of shadow and him
Mm-hmm,
like hovering outside of a room and silhouetting in, and some stuff that I was surprised in revisiting this to see like, oh, they are kind of it's a lot of this is really there at the outset. That sense of mood, that sense of silhouette, that sense like projecting a shadow onto the room or hovering as a presence outside it. I can see why it made an impression art-wise on kids who were not used to like a cinematic, large for its time panel where he does his first swing from building to building.
And I don't know if anyone ever makes, if they ever say this outright, but boy, I can see some Orson Welles art directing in these books.
Yeah.
Like someone was going to the movies and watching Orson Welles films and going.
So which films of his had and had not come out in 1939?
I don't know. I got to find out. That's very interesting.
So
I can do that.
so you
done
see on the left is the Flash Gordon drawing,
Oh my God.
and on the right is the Batman drawing.
Why learn to draw figures when
You can
Flash
trace.
Gordon is out there?
So now
God,
this
that
was
Flash Gordon's
this was done in a rush.
There are artists who still do this, and I
there's
dislike them.
Tarzan
Yeah.
on the bottom and Batman on the right.
This is frowned upon now. Let's make that clear.
And that being said, tracing wasn't very common practice. It wasn't like necessarily frowned upon because they were borrowing from everyone. And
Yeah.
it was a new art form. They're still learning how to do it. But like this is all like trying to contextualize it a bit. But that being said, Bob Kane kind of stole a lot of his artwork, and it was done in a rush to meet the deadline and get it out. But he still continued to do it, and that even with that being said, you were saying about issue 33, the Batman Origin one,
Yeah.
that the artwork was great.
Well, I was complimented
You were
by
starting to see shadows and stuff like
in
that.
the second and third, in Detective 28 and 29, you're starting to see the
Because Bob Kane and Sheldon Moldoff share actual penciling credit on 33.
Oh, interesting.
29 is Bob Kane.
What
30
what
is
year was
Sheldon
what year was
Moldoff.
Detective Comics? What year were you?
39.
39 was also Citizen Kane.
When in 39?
That depends
Eisner
on where you
talks
were.
about seeing this and it blowing his mind.
It ran for 3 years, so it's tough to call.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. March. No,
Oh,
that's a
thank you.
different Run. It would have been New York, so it would have been early run. Contract was August, so end of 39.
So this is Detective Comics 29.
Interesting. So during the first year of Batman, Citizen Kane comes out.
That's a big deal.
You know, no big deal. In 39, wow, 39 was a hell of a year.
gonna
I know
say.
everybody says it all the time, but like,
Yeah, 39. Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of weird because it was old style movie release, which means it's just
yeah,
like
just
5
rolled out
releases.
eventually and traveled around.
Well, that's, yeah, I'll delve. Too much Orson. Orson Welles was doing so much. He was like the biggest.
he was the he
I
was.
can't believe I forgot he was the voice of the Shadow.
He influenced an entire generation of artists because he was doing radio, he was doing theater, plays, he was doing film. I mean, like he was everywhere.
So Superman comes out, hugely successful. Leibowitz and Donenfeld really want to get that next big marketing bonanza, so Batman comes out, and whether Bob Kane meant for him to become the antithesis to Superman, or if Bill Finger made it that, Batman is essentially the antithesis to Superman, where Superman is like, I fight in the day. Batman's like, I fight criminals at night and I whisper and I don't really put myself out there too much.
It's interesting because you see him quipping in the way of a lot of action heroes, but then you also get some very striking pages of silence pretty early, and you sort of get that, like, they're starting to see the power of that. Here's the, like, he'll quip around with like, you know, someone's like, sorry for keeping you waiting, and he's like, don't mind the favor at all, or, you know, that sort of thing.
It's that,
and then
yeah.
one issue later, you get this, which is a fairly striking page. You
Yeah.
know, God knows copied from what. But
He
who
didn't
knows?
copy
I wasn't
everything,
there.
but
like you get here, he's silhouetted against the moon. Him outside this room. That was the first time that it's like this is I think the second story, and he's standing dramatically outside while he's silhouetted. He comes in wordlessly, which is sort of an impressive use of silence.
Yeah, I think that
for
might be
a comic
28.
this old. And like he does not speak on this page, which is very interesting. Not that he spends, you know, he does a lot of times. It's old school comics, so he does a lot of things like, I think my suction pads will come in handy here.
Oh
as
my
he's
God.
climbing the.
There is so much exposition about movement in like
They assume
pages.
you can't tell what's happening.
Pages spent explaining how he gets from the ground to the second floor of a balcony. I've got suction cups on my knees and on my hands. I've got my rope. I've
Silk rope.
unfurled, silk rope. I've
My tough
unfurled it.
silk rope.
He
I've
tells
swung
you
it.
where he
It's
hides the
latched.
car on every job.
Oh, where he hides the car, and that first car, we're gonna have a
His
talk about.
his red sedan that I
his
forgot to
dad's
pull the
sedan.
image for, but is also stolen art.
Is it also stolen? Oh, it's
Yeah.
a dad sedan. It's such
I think
a dad.
I think that's also from Gangbusters in Action.
Oh man, yeah.
Let's see, where is I still
So
Gangbusters in Action also, I assume, is an FBI.
I don't know. Never read it. I did some of the research and
Yeah, look at that car.
Yeah.
Oh.
I checked the important stuff, like the fact that in the third story, Detective 29, we get our first shirtless Bruce Wayne.
That's
You know.
No.
Gotta
Important.
write down the milestones.
Important stuff.
In which we have the classic exchange with his family doctor. We haven't met Alfred
Oh,
yet.
that I kept that because it's such a okay. I know you already know, so you're gonna do it. You already know.
I actually have no idea what. I just really kept this. Yep, that's perfect. He gets shot, so he's like, this is fine. He makes his call to the cops, all dressed in his new suit, and then he goes, I guess I'd better see the family doctor at once. This shoulder is beginning to ache. He's been shot.
Yeah,
shot.
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
So-
I know this panel.
I just love this. Mysterious blonde doctor guy goes, it's all right now, Bruce, but how did you shoot yourself when there are no powder marks on your flesh? And I would like one of you to please give me Bruce Wayne's extremely logical reply.
I do funny things sometimes, Doc. I'll tell you all about it someday. Thanks for everything.
The end!
The end.
So
The entire exchange.
The end. That makes sense. How you can have no powder marks on your body when you shoot yourself, because that, for the record, that's not physically possible. You actually,
Yeah,
it's
and
literally.
like, do you really, like, he's shot in the shoulder. Like, how are you
Your
even?
arm cannot extend far enough. For those of you who are interested in the coronary arts, not culinary.
Coronary.
You can't get your arm far enough not to leave burns on your body from
Unless you're Batman!
Unless you're Batman.
I do funny things sometimes,
so-
Doc.
This is something. This
Don't question the
panel.
rich. I don't know.
This panel stuck out to me very powerfully. I wanted and what it brought, because it invoked something in me, which was the first mythic moment for me for this character, which was this panel. And I wish I'd gotten a side by side. Reminds me in form so much of, gosh, that's the third needle I've broken on your arm. Try again, Doc. Which was, I think, the first shirtless Superman. Was him
Interesting.
as a young man, the origin of Superman, and he's at the doctor's office, and there's a doctor trying to give him an injection, going, "That's the third needle I've broken on your skin. Try again, Doc."
Try again, Doc.
Amazing.
So
So he's the human counterpoint to that, in that, like, he does need the doc to help him patch up his gunshots, but he is the kind of guy who will stop and call the police fully dressed first before he bothers to take
I'm going to
care
see
of
if I
it.
can find. I'm going to see if I can actually find the panel, because even the posture is the same, like the look on his face is the. It's
Well, I
the
now
same.
suddenly suspect that
he
might not
might
be
have
a
actually
coincidence.
stolen it,
So-
which is kind
Time
of
saver.
genius.
Time
So,
saver.
but here is an important thing about everything that you're pointing out
Yes.
there. This is 28, 29.
I think it's 29, yeah, the third story.
So this is 3 stories into Batman. Superman is now a year in, and Superman can't be shot.
Aha!
Batman can, and that's an
That's
important
important.
difference.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, let's side by
I
side
found
this
it.
thing.
I found it. Look at that.
those are
Oh, hold on.
What the?
Pretty-
This is the 6th hypodermic needle I've broken on your skin. Try again, Doc.
So interesting.
Look at that.
It's just
They're
there's a real
similar.
resonance there.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think
not
he
a copy.
traced This
I don't
one,
think
but
it's
like,
traced.
It is. The resonance is very serious, though. Look at that.
That's fascinating.
Holy fuck.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well done, sir.
it really hit me.
If anyone has a 5-minute topic, by the way, preferably about shirtless superheroes getting doctor appointments,
Oh, no one wants to see that.
but-
I know
Throw it at
they
us.
think they do. They don't.
Topics.
non-copyrighted things.
I said topics. I changed it up.
Yep.
Fair use.
So, but it is important because Superman is bulletproof and he's superhuman, and I feel like Bill Finger and Bob Kane were trying to say, yeah, those guys have an invulnerable hero. Ours can bleed. Ours can get shot.
Anybody
When
can be
ours goes
Batman.
to the doctor, he needs the doctor. Like, I think that they were actually making a very
Conscious.
a very conscious like flag in the sand. Like, not saying that theirs is better, just different, and anybody can be Batman, and that was a giant selling point. Like, some people were like, I don't believe in that Superman stuff. That's a bunch of science fiction baloney. But this Batman, I could be this Batman.
Which is why they're going in these early stories into all that detail, because the utility belt has already shown up in the second, third story.
Utility belt.
Second.
I mean, he's wearing it,
Dr.
but
Death.
they talk about him.
They talk, yeah.
Second
Well,
is Jewel Thieves.
Oh, it's Jewel Thieves.
Okay,
I'm so sorry.
here's this escalated quickly of Batman. First, the case of the chemical syndicate. A businessman is bumping off other businessmen. Fine.
Racism level 2.0.
Oh,
if I
God.
recall. Yeah,
Oh.
just so you know, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Second story, Jewel Thieves.
Frenchie Blakes.
Frenchie,
Yep.
yeah. 2.0.
And for the record, someone dies in both of those stories, like at Batman.
Yeah,
Land.
I've
That's a
actually,
separate
I've
thing.
got like every single
Batman kills a
person
lot
that
of
he
people.
killed. I've got images of every single kill that he made.
Some of them I couldn't confirm. Like I was like probably
Off-panel.
dead, threw off a roof, you know. So we've got chemical syndicate, corrupt businessmen, Jewel Thieves. Dr. Death holds the world hostage.
And boy, does it. Dr. Death looks a lot like.
Before or after?
Well, before,
Okay.
or even after, it looks like a character that's going to be introduced in a little while. Like there was suddenly a definite look for a Batman villain for a while, which was bald goatee glasses.
Yep.
Kind of had a thing going on.
Yep, Hugo Strange ended up keeping it, but
Hugo Strange finally, he's almost the amalgamation of like every villain in Detective Comics who had. Again, you're going to run into some racism.
Yeah, we're real sorry, guys.
Ain't nothing to be done about it. It's a historical artifact. You just kind of like, it's what is it? Is think of England.
so in Detective Comics 27,
Yeah.
what critical Batman mythology do we establish? We get
have notes.
I did.
His suit. By the way, no yellow symbol.
No.
It's just a black squiggly bat.
Not for a long time.
Not for a long time. But
real
very
complicated.
early
They have to
on, you
draw
start
small,
getting.
Matt.
What's that?
They have to draw small, Matt.
Yeah,
Give them a
it's-
break.
But very early on, you start getting the imagery of Batman and the moon, and that's what ends up kind of feeding the yellow symbol is the bat against the moon. Is that hyphenated?
Bad against
of course.
the moon. Yeah. First
Batman.
story, everything's hyphenated, and it's the Batman. But yeah, this is the very first beginning of the first
God,
story.
that red car. Oh, that red car.
The red car, yeah. And there's the Trace Flash Gordon.
You do wonder, like, is it just a good guess that they gave him the cover for his first appearance, or would anybody would it like, who got covers on their first appearances? Who did it work out for?
And also,
Because he gets every other cover right away.
Yeah.
I think they know that superheroes are hot, and I think they're leaning into it.
They're leaning into like this is our next Superman, and it worked. It really did work because like Batman and Superman were like
Yeah, and not a lot of those other
Had,
back.
you know-
I read a couple runs of the other books, and none of them popped the same way. Even for, and we're gonna have I know that we're gonna have to talk about the J word because we both arrived at it, and when we get there, but like he really juvenile.
yeah.
Yeah, we had a conversation.
we had a
Joker?
conversation.
The
yeah.
word juvenile
yeah.
was like, but like not in a bad way.
Not in a bad way. Just
These early stories feel like Axe Cop.
a little bit. Like a little bit. Like so. Like for instance, and going along with that, and this is kind of jumping ahead, but
know,
why not? When Robin's parents die at Haley's Circus because of Boss Zuko,
Boss Zuko.
Like you do.
Batman shows up in costume and takes Robin into his car and drives him to his house. No explanation, just contextualize this in real life. A grown-ass man
a
shows up
batsuit.
in a bat suit, and you know that the dude in the bat suit has killed people. They're bad, but he still kills people, and he's now like, get in my car. I'm gonna take you to my house and keep you safe. Okay. I want you to fight crime with me. Sounds good. None of it makes sense. Batman leaves a note for a criminal. He's bad. Here's his confession. I'm sorry, Joe. Batman said you're guilty. I don't know. Sorry.
There is that. I will say that you're coming into these stories with a decade of the Depression under your
yeah.
belt.
Yes.
So
Yes.
essentially, they're not more or less realistic than Little Orphan Annie, who goes like the first random rich dude is like that one, and it's like, oh, thank God,
No, and
he can have a life now.
Yeah.
Like,
It's definitely there's if you're looking for a clever detective story, you're not gonna find it. It's an awful lot of him finding like a very articulate, well pulled out list of everything that someone has done, written out, and like with like liner notes so that he can like, here's evidence. I found it because it was on the desk. and you're like, oh.
A lot of detective work is knowing where to
look. Or just like literally showing up at the right place at the right time, just going, I'm just going to drive around until I see somebody who looks odd.
So Detective Comics 37, Chief, sorry, Batman stops to ask for directions. He stops. He is Batman. He stops to ask for directions.
He's a human being
and walks in on a criminal tied to a chair being harassed by other criminals, and that's where the story starts.
That is the most Adam West Batman moment I've ever heard.
That's what?
That's the most Adam West Batman moment.
Yeah, right? Like, and it's easy to see where like the Adam West Batman comes from when National Periodical is approaches them, I think it was CBS, about like, hey, we want you to do this Batman show. They're like, yeah, we'll go back and look at the comics. Yes, for directions? Yeah, we can do that show all day.
If you guys
look.
Yep, there we
love
are.
it.
And
Hey, look,
having
a
lost
proper car.
his way on a lonely by-road, almost lands in Rocky Horror, but instead stops before a lone house to ask directions.
But take note,
for very rich weirdos.
the car is a dark blue.
Yeah.
The car is already starting to become more
or what
Batmobile.
we call comic book black. Yeah, the comic book
comic
shiny,
black.
shiny black. Yeah. Comic book leather.
Yeah.
You asked about the pieces of mythology. So in 27,
In 27.
we first meet our first panel of the first
Very
story
first
of Batman.
panel, yep.
Well, maybe we should read the intro. The Batman, a mysterious and adventurous figure, fighting for righteousness and apprehending the wrongdoer in his lone battle against the evil forces of society. I like the idea that he's just trying to destroy society. His identity remains unknown, it says at the beginning of the first story. The Batman, in quotes, with a hyphen, by Robert Kane, the case of the Chemical Syndicate. The home of Commissioner Gordon, who at the moment is entertaining his young socialite friend, Bruce Wayne. Well, Commissioner, anything exciting happening these days? No, except this fellow they call the Batman puzzles me. And then he gets a phone call about a murder and invites his random rich friend to come with him.
Yep, you know.
And we're
Juvenile.
off.
That's what we're saying. That's juvenile. Like, that's not that's what we're saying. That
Juvenile's
doesn't
not a bad
diminish
thing.
the story. It's not a bad thing here.
just a descriptor.
But by modern standards, it's like, huh. So the rich guy goes with the commissioner
like
to a crime scene.
Literally,
He's
it's
just
like,
sitting there with his pipe like, oh,
come with me and see how the other half dies. It's just like, why
see-
not?
Come with me, see how the other half dies, young man. Oh my God, that's
Cocktails
so.
and literally a pipe in hand.
Yeah, a pipe in hand, like, yes, that is a gruesome death. Yes.
I think he and the police commissioner took his car. I never noticed this, but
Yeah, I think they did.
Like,
They don't have police cars?
Well, he's the police commissioner. He's not like a.
He was on his social call?
I'll also say, like, Wondermark, if anyone's a fan of Wondermark, Wondermark's an amazing comic strip, and they make fun of Batman a lot in Wondermark. And there's one called Exhibit A, and like, just look up Wondermark Exhibit A. Just because it makes fun of like a lot of this premise.
Can we read it?
Yeah, you know, why not? Why not? There's other ones too. But you're my lawyer, Rod. There's got to be something you can do.
I'm sorry, Amos. It's pretty open and shut from their point of view.
That maniac jumped me in the alley, beat me senseless, tied me up, and left me passed out bleeding. I was mugged, for God's sakes. In what world do I then get locked up?
Note from Batman says you're the perp, then you're the perp.
How is this even admissible? So yes,
David Malky.
if you don't know Wondermark, for God's sake, and every single one of these you can print and hang on your wall. I'm putting it out there.
Pretty wonderful.
I in no way
so
have a
good.
couple of these in my house. Stovecat is very
So
powerful.
we get Commissioner Gordon, we get Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
Then Batman shows up. We don't know that it's Bruce Wayne yet. But wait.
Because Bruce Wayne ducks out of that crime scene. He's just like, well, I'm done now. Bye.
This has been
Peace.
fun.
Yeah. This has been fun. Thanks, Commish. I'm going to go. Batman shows up. Batman solves the crime of the Chemical Syndicate that Bill Finger charitably borrowed from.
So did Shakespeare.
So does Shakespeare. Good point. And it turns out that these rich men made a bargain, and one guy wanted out of the bargain, so he killed everybody.
You can kind of tell that this might have been borrowed from another thing because it's like a 7-page story and there are like 9 characters.
Yeah.
There's one panel where it's like, and Jennings grabs so-and-so before Stryker can come in, and you're like, we don't know who that is.
You've got to
right?
start giving people
like,
different haircuts and different hair colors at the very least. If they're it's very hard to tell people apart.
just narrative density-wise.
And then you get a vat of acid, and Batman punches the Striker into it.
Yep.
Kill number 1.
I mean, Stryker's about to try to shoot him. Actually, I think he's already thrown a henchman off a roof by this point.
Yeah,
think you might be
and
right,
let me
yeah.
tell you that, like, the series of people he throws into vats of acid, like, Karma's kind of a bitch eventually coming back for this one.
Batman really does create his own bad guys.
He's got to stop throwing people into vats of acid.
That dude was trying to shoot him.
He was.
That henchman could probably have been taken down by non-lethal means. But I don't know about this acid.
There was no battering yet. All he had was the sleep gas at this point. Actually, not even the sleep gas yet.
He gets
Not even the sleep
soon,
gas.
though.
Yeah, it's real soon.
He gets the
Sleep gas
and Detective Comics 29. So that's 27. 28, Frenchie Blake's Jewel Gang.
Oh God,
You
Frenchie.
get the Bat Lasso, which is a silk rope he uses to lasso flagpoles and chimneys, which he then climbs up. So he's climbing a rope. There we go.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Tough silk rope from his belt.
He doesn't swing so much as Splunk Gotham.
Well,
Yeah.
really.
Spelunks Gotham.
But we do get the first sort of like swooping around kind of. Oh yeah,
Little
that's
bit.
That's a whole thing.
Yeah.
That's where he
Yeah.
just straight out threatens to murder the guy unless
Just
he writes.
threatens to murder the
confession.
guy.
Unless he
Yep.
writes a confession.
Yeah.
We're not even entirely sure that. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
dark.
maybe he
That's
did
so
it. He
dark.
probably did.
He did.
But he doesn't kill Frenchie Blake. He just drives by the police station and throws him on the sidewalk
note.
with a
Yes.
note. Pieces out.
He has already killed one of the henchmen though.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
I think again may have been trying to kill him, but off a roof he goes.
Hey, Batman is invading their business. They're just protecting their investments and their interests. By the way, one of the things that Glenn Weldon points out in his book is that for the first few issues, Batman is defending the rich more than he's defending anybody. He's like, oh, all these rich guys are getting killed. Better save them. Oh, all these rich people are losing their jewels. Got to stop that.
Speaking of of interesting opposites and like reflections, especially considering that Superman of that period was super working class.
Oh, hyper so.
Superman
Yeah.
was taking the owners of factories and dangling them off roofs because they were trying to union bust. It's a very interesting another point of kind of the political differences between the two characters.
Yeah.
Well, like
Really
it's interesting.
fascinating.
The first servant we see in Batman is the one who lets him into the widow's house. It's like
Yeah.
before, she's like a French maid who opens the door for a woman whose husband has just been killed in a failed blackmail plot later.
Yeah. Oh,
man.
And that woman's an interesting figure because she's both rich and poor.
Yeah.
Basically, they were blackmailing her husband for millions that he didn't have anymore because of the Depression.
Except for those diamonds.
But there's some backup diamonds.
Always
so-
got to have your backup.
Got them backup family diamonds.
Except for the diamonds, of course.
I mean, of course.
Yeah.
But what is fascinating about that, and again, to contextualize that, they reference the Great Depression.
a lot.
Yeah.
And they reference it in that particular one. I'm sure I wrote
think
it down
that's
here, but I have a
30.
lot of notes here.
30 was the first, was the one where she says we lost our fortune in the Depression. And I was like, right, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just
Also
like,
the first villain resurrection.
Yes,
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit was
Yeah.
a great movie. I like that.
so
Speaking of vats of acid.
so 28, he doesn't kill the bad guy, but he does have the bat lasso. And again, not a bat grappling hook, bat lasso. He's got a
He's got a silk rope with a
Fook.
knot. And
yeah,
he's really good at
that's
throwing
it. And it takes like I think 3 or 4 more issues before he uses it on a bad guy. He's just using it to grapple to spelunk, not even Gotham yet.
No, it is.
He gets himself
To
escape
spelunk,
routes.
not Gotham.
It's still
whatever
Manhattan
city.
at that point.
Well, they haven't officially
They've
said Manhattan
never
at that
actually
point.
said the city, but
The
yeah.
Manhattan comes up
It's
in like
assumed.
3031, I think.
And but he's doing the Adam West climb a lot. Like it's an
Yeah.
awful lot of like doo 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 doo.
Yeah. And again, you can see where Batman 66 is like looking back at
Oh,
these
yeah.
originals going, yeah, we can do this. Like they weren't looking at the 50s. They were looking at the original stuff, which is kind of weird when you think about it. 'cause
Through
the
Were they,
originals,
like, I don't know. It tracks.
again, just
But it would
with
have
the
been difficult
reference
to
of the
actually
Glenn
get
Weldon
hold of
book,
some of that. Yeah.
he says that they were mostly referencing the early stuff. Like they weren't looking at the
It
50s
make-
because the 50s weren't considered
It's
great.
just weird to me because at that time it would have been sort of like difficult to track down because no one was paying attention or keeping shit. And probably DC didn't
Well, they
even have
they
them.
had Bob, so they
Did he
have,
keep archives?
I'm
Oh,
sure
I'm
he
sure
and
he
I'm
did.
sure he was also a reference point. But
Okay.
like the books, the Batman books that were being published when the Batman show were on had nothing. Like it was a whole
Nothing.
other universe.
Yeah.
But we'll get there on another show.
Yay!
Whole other show. Probably like
I will do Batman 60s.
That's
wait.
anytime
Cannot
soon.
wait.
Batman year, hold on, 39 to 66 is just under 30 years. It's Batman year 27. Wow, that is so much shorter than I expected. And
Yeah.
it has been many more years since then than it was in between. My mind is blown.
And man,
Please continue.
I have a deep love of that Adam West Batman. It is.
Yeah?
I have a deep love of Adam West.
I didn't love it when I was a kid, but I've since grown to love it because my lovely wife, Brittany, hi Brittany, she loves it. So we've watched the movie a couple times.
They had all the props
and,
on display a few months ago in Hollywood, and I went and I saw every.
Of course you did. That is not
That's
surprising
awesome.
in the least.
I also
we'll go
love
into
this is not really Batman related, but I love reading old comics for things like this, where 2 times in these very early stories, they haven't quite worked out comic book language yet. So the other time is somebody being heard through a door, but the first time is the voice on a telephone appears in this comic in the form of what we now understand to be a thought bubble.
Oh, really?
They have not standardized the communication language.
That's interesting.
That threw me really bad
Yeah,
reading that
wow.
reading that first issue. I got confused.
Like
It happens later when someone talks through a door.
I saw it coming from the telephone. It's like, oh, it's a telephone call. Like I didn't even notice it was a thought bubble. That's really fascinating.
Actually, it is actually correct. The phone is not plugged in, and he's just hallucinating.
Oh, he's just hallucinating the thought.
This is the next
Very
one.
clever.
It's when he's pretending to be the criminals, but it looks like the door is just thinking, yeah, let us in. It's a little unfair to, these aren't funny in their time. In their time, everybody's just figuring out from context
Yeah, they're
what
still
it's meant
figuring
in
it
a
out.
comic.
It's the Wild
but
West.
it's really funny now.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at that panel. Oh, look at that panel.
Oh, Chief is saying to put
Yeah.
it back. He was fixing the camera.
Oh, thank you.
That's so iconic. That's
Okay, so first we'll do the funny doors thinking, yeah. And then we'll segue over to
That's
legitimately
such a-
beautiful Batman.
that even
Wherever
looks
it
like
came
one
from,
of
it's great.
that's practically one of the Morrison Batman Incorporated covers right there.
Yeah.
Like Batman Japan.
The interesting thing, and I don't know if this was intentional or if buildings are hard to draw, but all the buildings are at funky angles here. And it's one of those things of cinematic presentation that you wonder if it's like the lawless city.
Well,
Which issue is this?
That is 28.
I'll say
28.
that the weird angles wasn't a part of was I mean, unless someone was deep into silent, it wasn't part of cinematic presentation until that year. So it's interesting.
That's
So they didn't
'cause,
make it over from Caligari to the rest of film?
I mean,
was that just only weirdos had seen it?
Yeah, well, the European artists were the European artists, but pop culture didn't get weird. I mean,
When
on a
did
certain level, pop
Citizen
culture
Kane
didn't
come
get
out?
weird.
Later this year.
Later that year
So,
was like when, or
so after this issue would have
Yeah.
come out, because that if that's
my
29,
my feeling is it
28?
must have been after.
so yeah, 28
But-
would have been June.
My feeling is it must have been after,
Okay.
but it was in the air. Like this new style was just blossoming from a lot of places.
Yeah.
It was that weird collective unconsciousness woo-woo.
Just weird angles, Dutch angles, stuff like that. Yeah.
Something in the air, man.
Okay.
So, by the end of 28, now, so 2 issues in, 12 pages of Batman, maybe 14 pages of Batman. We've got Commissioner Gordon, Bruce Wayne, Batman. We've got his costume, and now we also have a bat lasso, and a bad guy that he's killed one main villain and thrown another one in jail. That's where we're at right now with Batman. So then we get to Detective Comics 29. The Batman meets Dr. Death.
Yay!
Yay! Because you can't have a superhero without a supervillain. So let's name one Dr. Death. That's a great name for a villain, right? So and in this
Very
one
menacing.
we get the first. He doesn't call it a utility belt, but he does have a glass pellet filled with gas, sleeping gas, choking
pellets
gas.
in the
Lots of glass
belt.
pellets in
There
the
we are.
belt.
Look at that. That's what those are apparently.
So
Choking gas.
Again, he doesn't reference it as his utility belt. We don't have that yet.
And
but
he has been wearing it in the art, but here's where he explains sort of what it is.
Yeah, and it's you can almost feel like Bob Kane and Bill Finger going, yeah, maybe we should work with that a little bit more. Like we haven't really described any of that yet.
I feel like every issue, and we'll see how you feel about this, is let's do a gimmick. It feels like we want a hook for every issue. And this hook is choking gas, and then next week will be something else.
A lot of choking gas in this one. This is also interesting because this is the, I think, second time we've seen him get his costume out. He keeps it in a small chest in his house.
Yeah.
Which has not yet been
hook
named. We haven't met Alfred. We haven't. A few issues later, we'll get a reference to Wayne Mansion. But right now, it's just Bruce returns home. He kneels before a small chest, takes out his bat-like mantle. This is also the one where the bad guy places a personal ad for Batman, which the police just ignore.
Yeah,
I
they
guess.
totally ignore.
They're like,
And
I'm
my
gonna
favorite-
murder a guy, whatever.
And again, going back to kind of like juvenile, like kind of thinking, he shows up at the post office and is like, Yeah, I was told to come here. Like, what does
It
the letter
was-
actually say? Like, he shows up. If he
Public
shows up,
notices.
It was.
he is Batman.
I will say historically, it was not insane for that to happen. Like
To leave messages for Batman?
for criminals to put messages in the newspaper was
Sure.
not crazy. Like,
Not
that was-
crazy.
I mean, it's a great way to send secret messages, but would you go with Batman, if you will go to the General Post Office and ask for a letter addressed to John Jones, you will find a message of vital importance?
I feel like it's up to Batman to make sure that he's up early and reads the morning paper and gets there and is like at the door when the post office is ready to open.
So
I
when
do
he
have a
shows,
complaint about time because it takes him 12 hours to read
Yeah.
this paper, go to the post office, and arrive home with half an hour to make his 9 o'clock appointment? What does he do?
well,
in the middle?
here's my favorite. If you'll show up at the post office and ask for a letter for John Jones, then you'll get another clue. The cops aren't going to the post office going like,
or just
has anyone
people
asked
who
for
read
John
the paper
Jones?
like, I want a clue about John Jones.
Yeah, I want to know who Batman is. I'm going to go wait at the post office. Has anyone asked for John Jones yet? No. Cool. I'm just gonna chill over here. Like,
Nobody asked him for identification. He just walks up to the U.S. Post Office and says, "Have you a letter addressed to John Jones?"
And they said, we've
Martian
got lots of
Manhunter, who
letters.
I was
hasn't
about
been
to say
invented
the
yet.
Martian
Like,
Manhunter, yeah.
but it's my. Oh, fine.
Go right. So in this one, by the way, according to online sources, Gardner Fox was the writer on this one, not Bill Finger.
Oh, thank you.
But we start seeing new gadgets, suction cup on his
Suction
knees
cup
and hands.
and hands.
His the glass pellet. We get a new villain. He's in a red car. This is also the one where he gets shot and bleeds.
I have to pause because it is actually super significant that this one I did not put together. He is credited like as the author of this one. Gardner Fox being the one who introduces the supervillain bad guy is singularly appropriate because Gardner Fox will go on to have an extraordinary career in superhero comics.
Yeah.
Primary writer for classic Justice League. So that's
Did he
20 odd years away.
Did he do the JLA? No, well, he did the Flash. I know he did the Flash one, right? The multiverse, the Earth 1 and Earth 2.
That sounds true to me.
I think that was him. Did he also do Starro? Was that him?
I
The
feel like
Justice
he
League
did
Starro book?
Their first appearance.
Like their
Brave and
first
Bold?
appearance, yeah.
He might.
My brain says yes, but I haven't checked it.
Yeah, my
'Cause he was
my heart
pretty-
says yes, my brain doesn't know.
Like early Silver Age was like Gardner Fox was
He
huge
was
in
the
that.
primary
yeah, he was,
author for Justice League in that period of time,
I-
so it would track, but
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head.
So did Dr. Death ever show up again, or was this the only
One other time.
one other time?
One other time in the I think it was the very next comic, Detective Comics 30.
Okay, because I'll also say, because then later on they brought in a Japanese supervillain for the Japanese Batman, which was Mr. Deathman.
I don't.
Mr. Deathman was the Joker for the Japanese Batman.
Lord Deathman?
Lord Deathman. Thank you. They had like a thing where he had changed his name though, because I know there was like because he was normal at first and then he got superpowers later.
Nice.
So
Which also kind of happens with our guy.
yeah, actually, weirdly, again, an interesting mirror.
So one of my favorite things about this issue is that Batman just lets Dr. Death die in a fire.
Yep.
He does.
Like they fight, Batman wins, a fire starts in the middle of the fight, Batman escapes and literally just watches the building burn. He's like, well, I won. Justice is served.
He
Watch
says
that
death,
burning
dot,
building.
dot, dot, to Dr. Death.
Death.
I mean, it could be that he's commenting on the like, oh, you thought you would deal it out, but you've been like, it's possible to read this and hope that maybe he couldn't have
Oh,
rescued
sweet
him.
barbecued irony.
Yeah.
But
It's just like, that's fucking cold-blooded. Like, he's just like, yeah, he's burning in there.
Now, technically,
to
Dr.
Dr.
Death,
Death.
That's with peace out, by the way. Peace out.
Peace.
he is like Dr. Death is trying to throw a like burning death potion at Batman. Batman throws a fire extinguisher at him first. So again, kind of self-defense, but the fire thing breaks on the ground, sets everything on fire. Dr. Death starts laughing maniacally.
That's a
Ha,
really
ha, ha.
good
Oh,
maniacal.
ha ha ha! You fool. And Batman says, "You are the poor fool. He has gone mad," which is the area in which you can assume that maybe this is where he's saying, "Oh no, it's too late to save you," and you're like. Maybe in between these panels is his failed attempt to save him. But the next thing he says is death to Dr. Death. And our first kind of cliffhanger. But is it death to this arch criminal? Supervillain probably hasn't been minted as a term. Follow the further amazing and unique adventures of the Batman in next month's Detective Comics. So what happens next month?
Dr. Death returns.
Oh
The
no!
return of Dr.
What?
Death.
The return of
He
Dr.
didn't die
Death.
in that fire?
He didn't, but he came back and was gruesome. Like he looked like a
It's an
vampire
impressive
burn
face.
victim.
It's like a vampire face.
Yeah, it's a very like vampiric face, and I say that knowing that in Detective, the very next issue, it's Batman versus the Vampire Part 1.
Yeah, that takes a
And
turn.
then Part 2 is in Detective Comics 32. Again, I want to point out here, we're now 4 full Batman stories in. We're now on Detective Comics number 30. Still don't have an origin.
Nope.
Who's this guy? Why does he do what he does?
Yeah.
What's the deal with the bat?
No one seems to think that that's important. Like Superman got an origin story relatively early on. Like it was at least like from an exploding planet. It hadn't been named Krypton. Jor-El wasn't named yet, but I think those were actually done in the radio shows. But at least we knew he was an alien from another.
Superman canon came from the radio play.
I like that, yes, which is probably a factor. Like, I'm curious. I didn't look this up when Batman starts getting adapted and how that stuff happens. But I like the idea that if you had asked a kid 3 issues in, like, what do you think Batman's deal is, or like, why does he fight crime, that the kid would have just looked at you and been like,
Why?
because crime is bad.
Because crime. Like,
Yeah, but like, what are
crime.
you gonna let them take the jewels?
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that now? Theft is wrong. That person's killing people. I'm going to go stop that person.
Yeah, they just didn't know how much better it could get.
Yeah.
There were a lot of tropes of the medium that didn't really exist yet, and even secret identities were a bit interesting and odd. Like they weren't necessarily always there. There were plenty of characters that didn't even have secret identities. They were just whatever costume they were, and you never really bothered with them not in costume.
What do they do when they're not fighting crime? Who cares?
Who cares?
Nothing. We got 5 pages. Nothing anybody wants to read about.
But I do like Dr. Death comes back and he's wearing a mask and like he's set up another extravagant sort of thing.
His new face is a little bit suspicious from a design standpoint. That
Doesn't really look like a burn.
It's got
but
a little bit of an alien, or maybe, or again, maybe one of the
people drew their caricatures from sources that we don't always love.
Yeah,
but
no,
like,
I
he
was
starts out
gonna say-
German, and he acquires this weird
I
sort
think his
of
name was Helfern or something like that. Dr. Helfern.
Carl something, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But
that's
anyway,
just
yeah,
a thing to
there's-
note with old comics.
You're gonna run
So,
into
but
a lot
he
of it.
doesn't kill. He doesn't kill Dr. Death this time. He takes him to prison with a confession, I think.
Meet Dr. Death and his diamonds. They belong to Mrs. Jones, different from the John Jones thing. See that she gets them with the compliments of the Batman underlined symbol.
No hyphen.
No hyphen.
No hyphen.
So now,
Drop the hyphen.
Yeah,
now
hyphen's gone.
this next issue is one of my favorites. Detective Comics 31.
Beautiful.
Look at that beautiful cover art. I love it. It is amazing. He is like, what is it? Night on Ball Mountain. Like it's
Totally.
Bah, bah, bah,
I mean, like, yeah, we were. I was talking about Sam with the Wagnerian overtones of some of them.
Bah, 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 bah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how completely batshit is this story?
Oh
man?
my God!
Pretty
It
fucking
is
bad shit.
of
Holy
on a-
batshit Batman.
On a scale of Batman to holy fucking batshit Batman, it's beyond that.
Can we
It's
also
bonkers.
talk about that seersucker, that like bizarre suit that Bruce Wayne is wearing in the first couple pages of this issue?
Oh, I need to see. I barely paid attention to the fashion. Like,
Oh man, I was
just like, there's
I was
vampires.
fascinated by the way that people were dressed in this book.
Yeah.
He is wearing like a, I mean, like it's a suit.
It's a suit.
Where's this now?
But go a few pages further.
Yeah, we're Detective Comics 31.
Was this? Yeah, this was the one.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think he looks fancy.
I know, I love it, but what?
Oh yes.
Holy cow.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, along
Cow.
with this lady whose name was totally like I've probably learned her name and then forgotten it several times.
Julie
But
Madison?
if you'd asked me this morning or like before I was prepping, like who Julie Madison was, I would have been like, who? What?
For those of you who don't know,
Which is most of us.
Dude.
which was me until
at
I
that
read
suit.
this,
Look
Detective.
at that fanciness.
Oh, that's. I mean, oh man, with a pipe and a bow tie.
So-
and a sweater.
Don't you argue
vest.
with fashion.
I'm loving it. But, oh,
So
man.
it is now approximately September 1939. Batman is six stories in. Never once have we heard Bruce Wayne is engaged.
No.
But Bruce Wayne is engaged, and his fiance's name is Julie Madison.
Yep.
And Julie Madison
Of the Gotham Madisons.
of the Gotham Madisons. Julie Madison, the very beginning of Detective Comics 31, is in a trance and she goes to kill a man.
Batman
And-
has a type.
Yeah, he very clearly does. And Batman goes and saves the man from being killed by Julie Madison, notices that his fiance is in a trance.
Yeah, the Batman recognizes his fiancée, Julie Madison,
Yeah.
which I would hope he would.
Yeah, yeah.
We certainly don't, so someone
yeah,
better.
happy circumstance. And I love that. So in the story, you find out as he's talking to Julie, that Batman knows Bruce Wayne and says, "Tell everything that happened to you tonight to your fiance Bruce Wayne." He drives Bruce Wayne's car.
And she's like, wait, who are you and how do you know where I live?
I'd like to think that he's talking like this the entire time.
I am not your fiance.
I am not your fiance.
Bruce, stop it! Like you do that voice with me all the time.
No, I don't.
No, I don't. I'm not Bruce Wayne. You're my fiance. You can stop
Who's
it now.
Bruce Wayne? I don't even know who that
Bruce?
is.
You literally just told me to tell my fiance Bruce Wayne. No, I did.
This.
Oh, God,
we're
it's
gonna
so
get into
funny
this
to me.
joke more later, but yes, this joke continues for 30 years, but we'll get there.
Oh God, so good. I loved it so much. So, but in this issue, he goes to he brings his fiance to a psychiatrist or a therapist or someone, a doctor, and he said, I think that it's on the next page from what you have there up in the top corner. I know. Can you just read that in the best doctor voice possible?
Yeah, so scarcely 2 hours later, he's brought his fiancée to Dr. Trent. We'd better see Dr. Trent right away. Young lady, I've seen victims of an expert hypnotist exhibit your symptoms. Don't you recall anything that would suggest something like that? I advise an ocean voyage.
Sure.
Bit of a leap, but sure. Yet as Dr. Trent talks, Bruce Wayne notices his staring eyes and wonders... ... Here's him talking again. Yes, an ocean voyage to Paris. And perhaps later, to Hungary, the land of history and werewolves.
You know,
History.
and werewolves and
It's
Hungary.
underlined.
Yeah.
Hungary, the land of history and werewolves.
And werewolves. and this poor woman who's just been hypnotized has now been told by a medical professional, no reason.
Who does look like Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, who looks like a German Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
A fat German Colonel Sanders. Go on an ocean voyage
Go to Paris.
to Paris, and then to Hungary.
Because of the werewolf.
History, werewolves. Oh, well, that makes total sense. I'm going to go. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely, let's go now. My fiance, Bruce Wayne, is very rich. I'm
So
not
can-
your fiance. Yes, you are, Bruce Wayne. Stop it.
Literally, the next panel is
My
him
whole
going
problem with
to
homeopathic medicine is laid out right.
lunar lines. He goes, 1 ticket to Paris,
Barely
please,
any
port
werewolf.
cabin. And then he says to his fiancée, I don't like the crack the doctor made about werewolves, Julie.
Yeah.
And he seemed hypnotized
about that.
himself when he gave you that advice. But maybe I'm imagining things. Batman gaslights himself into thinking this is normal. And,
That wonderful
and she
cut.
goes,
This
of course
entire
you are.
issue.
I've worried you, but I'll be good. I promise.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
But
There's
back
a lot
at the
of
Wayne
simpering,
Mansion,
too.
Julie would be surprised to know her Batman is her future husband, he says, alone in a room with his cowl behind him, dramatically shirtless.
He doesn't think it. He says it.
He says
Yeah,
it out
He
loud.
says it out loud in an empty room. Alfred doesn't exist yet, so he has no one to talk to.
Talking to the costume.
But boy, would she be surprised.
Find her husband
But he gets
talking
himself
to
a
himself.
plane, though, so that's
Yeah,
exciting.
Yeah,
gets a bat
so
plane.
again, my research said that Gardner Fox wrote this.
Yeah.
Looking it up on the internet.
This collection I keep referencing, which our job would have been so much
Fantastic.
harder a couple years ago, because this came
Oh,
out in like
man.
2016.
These are
It's got
great.
actual credits, actual like this one, for instance, Batman vs. the Vampire Part 1, a title they've assigned to it. Detective Comics 31, September 1939, cover art by Bob Kane, writers Gardner Fox with Bill Finger, inkers Bob Kane and Sheldon Moldoff.
So
What a concept. Credits.
credits.
Thank you, DC. This is a great collection.
It's really
beautiful
fan.
and filled
And
with
this is the
beautiful
same
things.
one that I read, but on Comixology.
I've got
Seeing the
mine
book
too.
is like, oh man, I want a house where I have a whole library just filled with those. That's a goal. So in this issue, we get the Bat plane though it's called, I think, the Bat Gyrocopter.
It sure is Bat Gyro.
Gyrocopter.
We get
It's got
a
blades.
kind of reference to a maybe someday this will be the Bat Cave kind of thing.
Do we get the sliding door in this one?
I don't think we get the sliding door in this one. I think the sliding door doesn't
More
come
of a-
for.
Go a little deep. It's a little deeper.
I don't. Do we have the sliding door in this one?
Sliding door comes soon. Where's the?
I think it's further. I think it's further.
Oh, in a secret hangar known only to himself.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
where
secret
the Bat
hangar.
Gyro is. And he's testing out the flying. Well, you're about to say it probably.
Yeah, the batarang.
Yes.
Yes. So, this batshit crazy comic gives us our first bat plane, which is a gyrocopter. It's a plane helicopter, and the batarang. Two hyper essential Batman things come because Batman has to fly to Europe to keep his fiancée that we didn't know he had safe from vampires and werewolves and the land of history and werewolves.
So here's efficient storytelling. Page 1, we have a problem. Some lady. Page 2, that's his fiancée. She's been hypnotized. Take an ocean voyage. Page 3, gearing up. This is literally the gearing up montage.
Here's the stuff you're going to see in the story later.
You're going to need this copter. You're going to need this batarang. We literally explained to you that a batarang is kind of like a boomerang.
But a bat.
And we're off. And the action begins.
Fast.
He goes to France. He saves his fiancée from a vampire named Laura. What is it? I can't remember.
It's got a D. It's a.
Lada, maybe?
Hold
or
on.
Dala?
Dala.
Yeah,
Dala.
D-A-L-A. Yeah.
I had a little bit of a Ra's al Ghul moment where I'm like, is it? Oh, no.
I know.
Yeah, same.
No.
Same.
no.
Oh, right, we're already getting that. I didn't think that came until the 70s. I'm still wrong.
It's
Okay.
tricky, too, because a couple characters' names change in the book.
Yeah.
Harvey Dent was not Harvey Dent at the beginning. He was Harvey Kent. And little inconsistencies
Is anyone
flourish.
else a little bit confused that vampires and werewolves are the same thing?
They did kind of not really handle that.
It's like the thought bubbles to me, where it's like, had we not cemented those categories yet? Was it just like you're some kind of monster,
because-
something to do with blood, something to do with attacking people?
Because when we get to Detective Comics number 32, Batman versus the Vampire Part 2, we get him saying, only a silver bullet may kill a vampire.
Yeah.
And then he melts down a silver statue and makes 2 silver bullets out of it and kills 2 vampires. Because his
Who
fiancée,
are explicitly in the text werewolves.
Yeah. In fact, there's images like this image right here. I forgot to pull this one.
Yeah.
Show that one off. Here we see the villain, known only as the Monk, turning into a werewolf. It looks more like a badger or a wolverine to me, but there it is.
I would also love, so vampire stories traditionally have a lot of very interesting readings, whether they are about reinforcing or subverting the bounds of society. You get sort of arguments for both in favor of the vampires and the specter of liberated women as a bad thing, or the vampires and investigation of early queer subtext. You get a lot of really interesting stuff, which was, I'm sure, not intended here at all. But his fiance, for sure, gets her blood sucked in bed in a closed room by mysterious vampire Lady Dala. Just say it.
The funny thing about these type of archetypes is that it's hard to stumble out of them. You have to kind of
The baggage comes with you.
Yeah, and you don't know why. You didn't intend it, but that's how archetypes function. Is you put a vampire in it, and it's going to. And boy, I will have my vampire talk one day because I have pages thanks to my life.
Of being a vampire.
Because you're a
How much
vampire.
trouble will you be in for discussing with us your actual vampire life?
We all know that you actually have a name that we can't pronounce.
We have a secret society, but no, I worked on Hellsing, and I did a lot of study about vampire myth and how they work in mythology and the function of them in fiction and how they work. And you actually have to lean hard into it to not make a vampire kind of about sex in the end.
Yeah.
So the fact that you stumble into that easily, it's much harder to stumble out of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, a girl sneaks into bed with her and she wakes up with bite marks.
So Batman rescues this poor woman named Dala from the Monk. She suggests that they go to Hungary to help out his fiancée. I can't remember exactly why. They get to Hungary. Dala turns out to be a vampire. Batman goes rushing in to see his fiancée with 2 little red bite marks, and he's like, oh no, I've got to kill the vampires in order to save my fiance, who we didn't know existed until this issue. Runs and kills the vampires with 2 silver bullets after they turn into werewolves.
Chat made a very interesting point about a lot of this, which is that a lot of the vampire mythology had not been invented yet because film is where we get a lot of it. Vampires turning into werewolves and being killed by silver, turned into wolves and being killed by silver, totally on par with what people thought about vampires at the time. It was not weird.
What's interesting is that I've heard, I know that taking the form of a wolf is not that different from taking the form of a bat or turning into mist and other stuff, but I didn't realize they actually would use the term werewolves for that.
I don't know if they would. That one I don't know.
Because they do it here.
They do it there.
Refer to them in both ways.
That might just be sloppy.
And I'm fascinated by it because there was clearly a point in time where that seemed reasonable. That's what I like about this story, is this, it's the thought bubble coming out of a telephone, but for vampires and werewolves.
Come on, get on it, Gardner Fox.
It's not wrong because right hasn't been invented yet.
And
I love that.
Yeah.
It's proto-orthodox.
And this is all the Golden Age, omnibuses that we're playing with right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the wonderful, wonderful Golden Age Batman Volume 1.
I see you, chat. I'm trying.
Thank you.
How is Chat doing?
Chat has so many questions, and they're all over the. And they're like, "Where's the shark repellent?" They've got a lot of questions.
Oh, shark repellent doesn't come around until the 60s.
Our favorite non-comic canonical villains from the Batman TV series, Bookworm.
I won't be able to answer that. I haven't seen a lot of it.
Boy, we may have to have a movie marathon.
Man, I've seen the movie a couple times. I love it. All right, so
no shark repellent yet, obviously.
Also, an interesting time. I find this interesting. Hungary, land of history and werewolves. It just is wonderful, but B, it's fascinating because I don't know Gardner Fox's particular background, but a lot of the guys writing and drawing these, they are poor kids from New York City, so they've probably never been to Europe, but their entire families were immigrants.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to be what level of imaginary Hungary? What was your imagination of Eastern Europe or that period of time? What were you drawing on? Were there weird family stories about this stuff? Did you really just hear about it in a book because you're a street kid from New York who has no idea about anything?
Whatever movie filmed there.
Yeah.
It was whatever movie. It was. I mean, Africa was the African Queen. Europe was the art films of the time. And eventually Munchausen coming in. It was whatever film had gotten released. It was there, and half those films, of course, filmed in Southern California.
Yep.
Southern California. It cannot. Film, especially at this point, had shaped everyone's imagination of everything.
Because it was the first generation to grow up with photographically reproduced images of places around the world, which I can't imagine the change
sound,
there.
and things like
second generation of photographs, I guess.
What sound does a frog make? What sound does a frog make?
Ribbit.
Only one species of frog says ribbit. No other species of frog on Earth makes a ribbit sound. There is only one species of frog that makes a ribbit sound, and they live in California. Nowhere else is that the sound of a frog, except that's the sound that everybody thinks of when they think of frogs.
Yeah.
This is unrelated, but on a side note, I'm borderline obsessed with the idea that we won't get to know this, but during the entire course of human history happens. And then within 100 years of our collective births, somebody invents technology to record sound. What happens to our use of language and our accents? Obviously they've changed over the course of the century, but more or less than they otherwise would have. What happens?
We can only go so far back right now as I think we have 1840. We talked to old people and kind of got up to 1840. Yeah, it's. And I already know, my young friends, when I talk about the days before the internet and cell phones, I can already feel how far away that world is.
Yeah.
It's intense. It's an intense chasm, and it scares me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway.
sound recording technology aside, Hungary, land of history and werewolves.
Yes.
Land of history and werewolves.
Let's. One more thing I want to point out here. Detective Comics 32 is the first time we see him use a batarang to propel his rope.
Oh, yeah.
So we still do not have a bat grapple, but we do have, I can't reach that. That's too high.
What if I tied it to my
So we see him still being inventive. Detective Comics 33, the Batman Wars Against the Dirigible of Doom. This is going to be sometime around November of 39.
And finally,
we get his origin story.
In the cleanest 2 pages in history.
2 pages, and the whole thing is put together, and it is somehow magically iconic as fuck.
Yeah, it really, really is.
Writer Gardner Fox, inkers Bob Kane and Shelley Moldoff, which basically means Bob Kane is credited for drawing it, and Moldoff helped him finish it.
And I
inking
do.
is a separate art form, but a lot of times if you have a split credit like that, that's what that means.
And I think Bill Finger is still probably involved in the writing,
I'm
or
sure.
like some of the like story plotting. So there's a part of me that kind of believes that Bill probably had this origin.
I want to
kind
know
of
who,
is.
who I want to know who wrote like the fucking the like what is the phrase for the
Oh, this is where he lands in Manhattan. This
the-
is the issue.
the like the mission statement of Batman, like the line that defines is
Yeah.
criminals are a superstitious
Cowardly lot.
Okay, can we do a reading of these 2 pages?
Yes,
Okay.
I think we should. Yeah, because this is huge. Like this ends up defining Batman, and it later defines Robin. This is kind of a big deal. This is a big
They
moment.
reprint this straight up when Batman gets his own book.
Are we
Yeah.
going to hop around the three of us, or are
What's
we
the
gonna...
best way to do this?
No, just take it. That's fine. Like if a voice comes up that I can do, then send it over.
We just need like the ability to show and read.
Thanks, Chief.
We're starting
top right.
here, I guess.
No,
No.
No,
Okay.
I'm definitely here.
Batman by Bob Kane, sure.
Some 15.
love you.
Oh no, you can go down. Here we go.
Eerie figure of the night, nemesis of crime. This is the Batman.
Some 15 years ago, Thomas Wayne, his wife and son were walking home from a movie.
What is this?
A stick-up, buddy. I'll take that necklace you're wearing, lady.
Leave her alone, you. Oh,
You asked for it.
Thomas, you've killed him! Help! Police, help!
this'll
will
shut.
shut you
Oh,
up.
sorry, that's you. Taliesin.
The boy's eyes are wide with terror and shock as the horrible scene is spread before him.
Father, mother, dead. They're dead.
Days later, a curious and strange scene takes place.
And I swear by the spirits of my parents to avenge their deaths by spending the rest of my life warring on all criminals.
As the years pass, Bruce Wayne prepares himself for his career. He becomes a master scientist, transforms his body to physical perfection until he's able to perform amazing athletic feats.
Dad's estate left me wealthy. I am ready, but first I must have a disguise. Criminals are a superstitious, cowardly lot, so my disguise must be able to strike terror into their hearts. I must be a creature of the night, a black, terrible,
As if in answer, a huge bat flies in the open window.
a bat. That's it. It's an omen. I shall become a bat.
And this is
And
something.
thus is
Thus
Thus
born.
is born this weird figure of the dark, this avenger of evil, the Batman.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's the cleanest thing in the universe, and it's all there.
Oh, it's nuts.
Gardner Fox.
And also just because this amuses me, it reminds me of the Milk Wars version of Batman, where he becomes a priest, and it's because when he's having the talk, a priest comes through the window.
Oh
I
my
shall become
God.
a priest.
Oh, priest man.
It's Father Bruce.
Oh my God. So, and in this episode, in this issue, holy other property.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, right?
Well done, Chief.
Interestingly, Avengers also, this is a separate thing, but like I discovered when I think Zorro puts together a group called the Avengers, like way before in one of his early stories. Which
Yeah.
is like, I mean, a lot of people were avenging a lot of things.
Well, speaking of teams, the bad guy in this puts together a team called the Crimson Horde, and he believes that he is the reincarnation or the reincarnated spirit of Napoleon, and he's meant to rule over the world in the next Napoleonic Empire.
Yeah, sure.
And Batman brings him down.
I'm gonna also let you know we're starting to run tight on time.
We are. We've got. So we're. I'm gonna.
We've made it
I'm
6
gonna,
months.
I'm gonna push hard. So like, give me
Maybe it's
1
Batman
second.
Year 0.5.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So give me a second. I'm just gonna push really hard.
The Summer of Batman.
Blimps with lasers attack Batman City. This is one of the first times we see Batman reverse engineering the technology of the villain. And he creates a compound that protects him and the plane against the lasers because laser proofing, I guess.
Proofing.
Yeah.
Yeah. right.
Detective Comics number 34. He meets a dude that's missing a face.
What?
A bad guy, Dr. Kruger, creates a ray that steals his face. He jumps into a car with the guy's sister randomly, completely random, she's immediately attacked by a knife thrown inside the car, I guess. I don't know.
I was so thrown that it was not the question. It really, really threw me that was not.
Same. I thought it was. I was like, oh my God, did we get the question that early on? Yeah.
Has Dick Tracy been invented by this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's some Dick Tracy stuff.
Some Dick Tracy stuff.
But like,
this,
really, it's dramatically surreal for this era in comics. It's very disturbing when you're used to like the other imagery to get your first full panel of the guy with no face.
I love it. I mean, like, it's such a, and like, it's got a real.
Who apologizes? He's like, you were probably weirded out on account of I don't have a face.
Yeah, on account of me not having a face. Which,
is-
by the way, how's he talking?
It's just
amazing.
We're
another
on
villain
Detective
of the
Comics
Phantom Toll.
34, Chief. I know I've got it like DC 34 in there.
Sorry, guys.
He's fighting against a bad guy named Duke Dorter, and he kills him. And what the fuck is with the room of flowers with female faces?
I love the.
It's never addressed. Batman escapes into a room. Am I going mad? And then the flowers talk to him at another point, and it's never addressed, and he doesn't free them. They're just flowers with girl faces.
Grant Morrison years later goes in and like delves into some of this.
Does he really?
I don't know if he delves into the flowers, but
I need to know what's going on with those flowers.
one of the things that especially the Grant Morrison run of like last Grant Morrison run of Batman did was attempt to make sense of this insane history.
Oh, I know, and I wanted to do a key question on it.
It's
at some
all
point.
Hugo Strange. It was his big push.
Oh,
which
I love
was
it. Yeah.
It's really good. Good stuff.
So there's an elaborate death wheel trap that Batman escapes. Detective Comics 35. He pushes a villain, Sheldon Lennox, to his death, and he uses a lot of gadgets to escape a lot of death traps. That's some of the first stuff we start.
The beginning of the death
At
trap.
this
Beginning of the
cover-
death traps kinds of stuff.
I love it. At this point, the covers are going, the Batman appearing in this issue and in every issue because they knew what
Because they
people
knew.
wanted.
They knew. They again, going back to remember what I said
Dramatic
earlier, where it's like there were a lot, like a lot of different characters in these. Slam Bradley and all these other characters. They're starting to realize, oh, Batman is picking up.
And it's starting to look more like the modern Batman and less like a guy in a Batman costume.
Yep. Detective Comics 36 sees the first iconic Batman villain, and that is Dr. Hugo Strange. Who uses fog to obscure streets so he can rob people.
I love. There's
A weather
something about-
machine
There's something
for
about
robbing.
Hugo Strange that I always find very appealing. There's something so sinister about it.
Yeah, I really do. The Dr. Death was the Hugo Strange prototype, and they
Definitely.
figured out how to actually do it with Hugo Strange.
Also, he knocks a bunch of guys over and goes, "This, boys, is what they call a perfect strike on any bowling alley," which is a super
Yeah, it's
Batman
a-
60-60 line.
And it's a cool image. It's like really like I pulled that just because the image looks great.
nice.
The
Yes.
dynamicism.
Detective
is very
37,
powerful.
Detective Comics 37, the Screaming House. That's the one where he stopped to ask for directions.
Yeah.
By the way. And the villain is killed by his own sword after Batman pushes him onto it. Detective Comics 38, I want to point out here.
Oh, the card turns black by 37.
Yep.
When does it
Also,
actually
Detective Comics 38, I believe, is the first time Ellsworth, what's the first name?
I don't know
is
him.
the editor.
Okay.
And that's important because Detective Comics 38 is the first appearance of Robin.
Robin the Boy Wonder.
Yay!
The sensational
Whitney
character.
Ellsworth, editor,
Thank you.
original series.
Look at that Errol Flynn motherfucker right there.
Yeah.
I mean, they acknowledge it.
No, like
They're
the font alone. Like if you're a kid and that font pops up, you're like, oh, they're putting a teenage Errol Flynn in a Batman book. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
You
All
probably
right.
don't say that last part because it's.
Fudge yeah.
But yeah.
Gosh
See
golly
now?
darn gee whiz.
1940
All right.
now, right?
That's a
I
hop and skip to
need
Tasty Town.
I need
That's
you
an E flat Dillinger. I'm gonna.
I need you to look at the first three. I need you to look at the first three lines of this and tell me if it's okay for me to talk about that. And I'm asking you two specifically because there's a misprint there that ends up haunting Batman into the comics code.
Question.
There's a missing space.
I mean, it looks like they sort of meant to put the space there. But
But it's not
my
there.
question about this is, does this misprint get brought up in that stuff?
It does not, but it's very unfortunate if you think about it. And that's why I'm saying, can I bring it up?
I think that's more of. I think that's just like bad typeface Tumblr. Like that's all that is. I think that's an Arrested Development joke. I don't actually. think
Okay, so I'm not going to bring it up.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
It's deeply juvenile, which is on par, but yeah.
Yeah, because they like, yeah.
We can just mention to people that there's all sorts of ways to fuck up attempting to describe an ally.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That can go wrong.
That can go way wrong.
So
That's
Ellsworth.
very funny.
That is
Yeah,
very, that
right?
is-
Because it's like there's a, yeah, anyway.
But for a minute, I was like, are you, because you can never rule out that something will get used in one of you may remember our couple episodes on the Comics Code. People did not.
I don't believe it was used.
Okay.
Because it was acknowledged that it was a typo.
Yeah.
But Batman and Robin having like a homosexual relationship was actually brought up.
Man,
That was a.
So-
if
there's
we have
so
time,
much history
if we have
there.
time for even World's Finest, I have all sorts of feelings
Yeah.
about
So
Batman.
well, we're getting
I know.
close. Robin comes in, and he has Dick Grayson do the oath, the exact same oath he did, and Robin then dedicates himself to fighting crime, fighting Boss Zuko. And the whole Haley Circus fiasco, because Robin is essentially the exact same as Batman. His parents are killed by criminals, and Robin takes a vow to fight them
Yeah.
alongside Batman.
The Batman thinks back to the time when his parents, too, were innocent victims of a criminal. And he says to Robin, my parents, too, were killed by a criminal. That's why I've devoted my life to exterminate them. And Robin says,
Then I want to also. Take me with you, please.
the Batman is reluctant, but the troubled face of the boy moves him deeply. Well, I guess you and I were both victims of a similar trouble. All right, I'll make you my aide, but I warn you, I lead a perilous life.
I'm not afraid.
That night, two grim figures take an undying oath and swear that we two will fight together against crime and corruption and never to swerve from the path of righteousness.
I swear it.
The training begins.
The training begins.
And you gotta think, like,
It's also- it was-
his other options were being an orphan in 1940,
Yeah.
which wasn't great.
Not perfect. Yeah.
Not a stellar time for orphans.
And Ellsworth, I want to
Aid,
point
not
out.
Ward at this point
Who
as
what?
well. My aid, not Ward at this. Yeah.
Yes. Ellsworth had a very large focus on the young readers. And he had the same thing with the Superman radio show. And he was also, I think, editing the Superman comics at the time, which is how he got the Superman show. And that was all about kids are reading this. We should be making these for kids, not for adults. Why is it so dark? Let's lighten it up and let's bring a kid in. Like, I think Ellsworth was the one who pushed the creation
I have
of Robin.
a theory.
I don't know this story, but that's
have
not-
a
No,
whole-
neither do I. That's actually a
I have
theory
a
that I
whole
have.
theory
Ah.
that it's possible that Bob Kane was like, I don't know, it's like you can finally get your red costume. I'm in.
Oh my God, you're so right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Fine.
Well, and it's very much like if Batman was this year's sensation, you got to shake it up. Like you can't rest on your laurels.
No.
So
Yeah.
they introduced Robin very self-consciously as the sensational character find of 1940.
And
as in like last year's news was Batman. This year's news is Robin.
It's such an Errol, like the costume is such an Errol Flynn nod. It's
Well, and Robin is
Lost in
Robin
danger,
Hood.
like the legendary Robin Hood, whose name and spirit he has adopted. Robin the Boy Wonder.
Yeah. Who's an acrobat? How convenient.
Yeah.
Also, want to point out in this very first issue, no, it's not here that they use it, but in Batman 37 or Detective 37, they used night vision goggles, and it's the first time that you have criminals thinking that Batman might be supernatural based on his tech. So we get that sort of element introduced there.
You know what's super weird though?
What
The
that?
preview from the previous issue doesn't say anything about meet the sensational character find of 1940. It just talks about the huge, terrifying man monsters who will stalk the streets of a once peaceful metropolis.
In Batman #1.
Oh, that's Batman #1.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Wait,
So
let me look-
Detective
let me-
Comics 38 or 37 comes out. Batman #1, June 1940 comes out then, and that's where we get the Joker, and we get Joker Venom, and we get the Joker Smiles. We get Catwoman, Robin going undercover because Bruce Wayne, by the way, terrible dad. Like the worst dad, like worst dad of the year
Only
every
gets
year
worse.
since 1940, and he only gets worse.
Oh, do we finally get to Quiet or Papa Spank? Okay.
Yeah, Papa Spank. I pulled that image.
Oh, bless
Quiet
Quiet.
or Papa Spank.
Bless.
That was a whole thing in the 30s and 40s in movies. It happens a lot.
Yeah, but
Some weird.
it's labeled Batman 1 and it's Papa Spank, Chief. I know. I'm pretty sure I pulled
language
that.
is a living thing and changes and molds with the time. And
Yeah.
occasionally you find something like, I cannot believe that was really a thing.
And by the way, Batman and Catwoman have like a very kind of, is this a romantic? Like it's very romantic on Batman's side. He lets her get away on purpose, lets her get away, and Robin calls him on it. He's like, that's some fucking bullshit, bro. What did you just do? And he's like, well, I don't know. She wasn't that bad.
Lovely girl. What eyes. Say, mustn't forget I've got a girl named Julie. Oh, well, she still had lovely eyes. maybe I'll bump into her again sometime.
Yep.
And Robin just goes,
All right, so we need to get to our topic, but at the end of Detective Comics 39 and Batman #1, this is a full year end. There's Catwoman. That's what Catwoman looks like. She's not Selena Kyle yet, but she is Catwoman. And she's very willingly letting Batman take the jewel off. So that's Batman in year 1. By the end of year 1, we do not have the Penguin. He doesn't come out until Detective Comics 58 in December of 41. The Scarecrow, World's Finest Comics #3 of September 41. Batmobile doesn't come out until Batman #5 in March of 1941.
The big face Batmobile.
With the big face Batmobile, and is not called the Batmobile until then. Bat Signal doesn't come around until Detective Comics #60 in 42. Batcave doesn't actually fully exist in comic book form until 1944 in Detective Comics 83. Alfred doesn't come around until Batman 16 and 43. Riddler doesn't come around until 48. Poison Ivy doesn't come around until 66, and Mr. Freeze is introduced as Mr. Zero in 59.
I'll also say Batman doesn't meet Superman until 1956.
Yep. So
And
that is Batman
Comic.
in his first year. And
is Batman not in the JSA?
No. I don't believe Batman was a member of the JSA.
I think he was, but Superman wasn't.
Oh, it might have been
Superman wasn't in the
Superman
JSA?
wasn't in the JSA.
Because JSA pops, there's an older Superman on Earth too, for sure.
There is, but I don't think he was in the original JSA. I might be wrong.
Okay.
I probably am.
I have the mightiest to the very first.
What year was this?
56.
That's insane.
Yeah, they get like Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent get like put on a ship together in the same room, and like the lights go out because of emergency, and they start changing, and the lights come back on, and they're
They're
both
like, wait, you're
"This is
Superman?
awkward."
Wait, you're Batman?
Yeah, and then they just let's go fight crime and
56,
make Lois
probably
slowly
not
doubt
by
her
coincidence,
sanity.
the year Flash came back, the rebirth of superheroes, the kickoff of what we call
The Silver Age. Yeah. So
There's
that, everybody, is the first year of Batman.
I didn't even get to Lon Chaney. Fuck it, next time.
I'm sorry.
We have
Next
so much
time.
more. That's the first beginning.
Like
of the first
we
year
really
Batman.
did have to kind of rush
I
it,
am
but
blown away that like I felt like that was a mad dash through a year over 2 hours. Holy cow!
yeah. And now we have to do our topic.
Now we have to do our topic. Find the topic.
So while you're finding it, I'm going to introduce it because producer Liz is pulling all of her hair out in anticipation of me probably doing
Holding
that.
it together really well.
Nope, she's dying over there. She's just like gonna murder us because we're
All right, I'm really excited. Let me know.
Okay, so welcome to the Wednesday Club. We are on Geek and Sundry's Twitch every Wednesday night at 7. You can also catch us on ProjectAlpha.com. And every single week we do a 5-minute one-shot topic based on a suggestion from you, our audience. And Taliesin Jaffe, tell us what that is tonight.
This one's rough. This
God.
comes from Tatzelfus. This is very Mitzelplickney. I can't hold it. Batman picks your younger teenage self to be his new sidekick.
Oh, God.
What is your new alter ego?
Oh, God.
And do you have pants? Bonus, producer bonus. What is your tragic backstory that got you to be Batman's ward?
Oh, no.
wow.
Oh, no, my
5
parents
minutes
watch this.
On the clock.
Oh, my mom and dad are watching, and I have to make a tragic backstory. Oh.
No, it's rough, isn't it?
Oh, hi, Mom and Dad. I love you. I don't mean to kill you in my tragic backstory.
Okay, I'm gonna dibs Proto-Oracle because that would have been like teenage me lived on the internet.
Super librarian.
Yep. I was and because that's just, if I was going to be remotely useful to Batman, it would not be in my capacity as a punching person. I was a dancer, so I could try to get in, but I was never like a backflip gymnastics kind of martial arts type. So yeah, definitely on the research side, definitely a Proto-Oracle for me. And I would like to think that because it's my teenage years, it would be like, he's a master of technology, but because I was a teenager at the precise moment when the average teenager was better than the older generation at technology, I'd be like helping him with the internet, we'd be figuring it out together.
What would your sidekick name be for Batman?
You know what? Let's just commit. I would be Dial-Up.
Oh my God, you would be Dial-Up?
Dial-Up.
Oh my
Because
God,
he
that's
would
a great
call
one.
for help. You know what I mean?
Ah.
And it would be like,
And then-
take the phone off the hook. It's time for Dial-Up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you would
That's
just
how
be
you know the cavalry's coming.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
Me in high school,
Okay.
I was very studious, erudite. Like I was very Christian. I think I have no powers, and magic isn't. I guess magic is real in the Batman universe, but I wouldn't have known that in high school. I feel like I'm on like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Like, let me tell you my whole backstory while I gave you the answer.
What's your entire story?
The entire story. Here's the so.
Do it in 3 pages if you can.
2 pages. That's all you get.
Yeah.
I think, but what I could do, I was great in a room. Like I was like I wasn't like a party animal, and I wasn't like a party central.
That is a term in Hollywood for when you're having, like, you are great at the interpersonal connection, at explaining ideas, at persuading people of things. That's being great in the room.
But I was like I mean I like to think that I still am, but in high school I certainly was hyper social, very like diplomatic. Like I was the nice guy at the center of the room who could tell a really good story and was like really funny. So like I feel like I would be like Batman's sort of like kind of party spy, like because I have
the
no
face.
like
Bruce
I'm
Wayne and you would roll around town like
yeah,
at
we would
events.
roll around town. He'd be like, listen, chum, I need you to go over there and get some information from those 2 bankers. All right, Bruce, I'm on it. And I could run over and be like, hey, guys, what's going on? Hey, I just like happen to like be, you guys are fascinating. Here's a fun story. Like, I'd be that kid. And then I would end up getting kidnapped, and I would be like a sort of like inciting incident for a lot of Batman stories.
What's your name?
Ooh, oh, God, pass. Can I pass? Can I call a friend?
Keyman. The Keyman.
The key, that's so on the nose.
I know, well, what
Last
do you
name is
want?
P, and you're getting him the information he needs in sort of a spy way. You're the face, you're the talker, you're the, like...
Definitely wasn't the face.
Well,
Not in high
face
school.
as in the term of the person
No,
with
I
the
know,
charisma.
but like I...
That's what you're saying here.
And I would have worn pants. I would have worn like great pants. I would have been like super pants. Maybe that's my name. I'm the pants.
The pants. That's fair.
British viewers, enjoy that.
And yeah,
Go on.
that gets interesting. Okay, I'm gonna go like interesting canonical on this one because I think I found something that's kind of canonical and kind of spooky, which is of course there's evil Batman in the DC universe, which is Owlman, who's the member of the crime syndicate.
Oh my God, you're going Earth 3.
He never had a sidekick, so I would have been like I would have been Owlboy.
Of course you would.
And would have been like I could have been and like I've
Fledgling.
yeah and fledgling.
Oh,
that's good.
that's
Very
cute.
good. I definitely would not have worn pants because nobody can work for Batman and wear pants. There's
You don't want to wear pants now.
I'm like the second those cameras go off, these things they actually are Velcro.
Tearaway pants.
Yeah.
Tearaway jeans.
And water. They're also pulp, so they dissolve in water. Pulp pants. My tragic backstory would have been
I forgot about that.
Terrible, some sort of terrible. Who can do better than a car crash? Blimp crash. Blimps are fun. And I would have broken my neck terribly so that I can actually turn my head 180 degrees in either direction like an owl.
Okay,
Therefore, I will get the powers of an owl.
Owlboy. I shall become the
Fletchling.
owl.
Batman and Fletchling. Yeah.
Oh man.
We ran out of time for tragic backstories, which means we get let off the hook.
Yeah. Oh man, I feel really bad. Anyway, thank you for watching. This has been our
Guilt is your tragic backstory.
What's that?
Guilt over not having a tragic backstory.
Yeah, that's my tragic backstory.
Your tragic backstory is like a really minor offense that you're like, I said the wrong thing, and you dedicate your life.
Batman, I promise I'll help you out forever. I said a terrible thing.
You're working off speed.
I was mean
Yeah.
once.
I was mean one time. I need to pay penance.
I love you, Matt. Sorry.
Thank you for watching. That's been our 5-minute one-shot topic on Wednesday Club. You can watch us, like I said earlier, every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. on the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel, also on ProjectAlpha.com. I am Matt Key.
Amy Dallen.
Taliesin Jaffe.
And we'll see you next Wednesday. But in the meantime, Wednesday Club, we're still here and we've got 2 minutes. So let's talk about next week.
What is next week?
Next week is a surprise.
Next week is a surprise. That's what I'm going to say because because right now all of our lives are chaos.
Oh.
We have a plan for next week, but we also might have a special guest, and I want to lock down who that is before we narrow
Is that
down
true?
what we...
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh man, I should read more emails. That's absolutely true. I hear that, Liz. Damn it.
Our producers are dying. It's fine. Stay tuned to our Twitters for things that are happening next week. Very exciting stuff, by the way, happening this weekend. You may have noticed on the interwebs.
Oh, yeah.
Very exciting stuff about to happen on Weave tonight.
Ooh, what's
crazy.
going on?
Markia is here to GM Weave for us.
My old co-host on Marvel Movie News.
Honorary Daisy.
And
Honorary
she's
Daisy?
yeah, she's an honorary Daisy. Yeah, absolutely.
Daisy in my heart at the very
She
least.
doesn't have a choice about that. We've
Yeah, there's no-
inducted
Yeah,
her.
we told her. We told her.
She was foolish enough to be on the show and be awesome. So, thank
gotta
you
get
so
the
much
group
for.
tattoo.
Yeah, that's. Thank
Wait,
you so
guys
much.
have a group tattoo?
You don't. Oh, you were asleep, but it's there. I assure you.
Wait, what?
Nothing.
So it's a 9:30 and you should watch
Special
it.
thanks to I'm Celine and all the Daisies who met up in London
Thank you.
for
That's
inspiring us. I can't believe
hugely
it's
humbling.
wonderful.
Keep reading comics. We'll
Keep
get
reading
more
comics
and like we'll definitely do more Batman because boy,
This was really fun.
there's a lot to talk about with Batman.
This was a great idea.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you
I
so
really
much.
want to do it for
Blown
Superman
away.
and Wonder Woman and Spider-Man. Like, just really dive into like just the like, because it's interesting to see
The
the evolution of a
beginning.
character. Like, this is what 75 or 80 years for Batman now.
He's going to be 80 next year?
Yeah. So like, we take for granted the Batman mythology that we have, but like that first year they barely had anything, and it's interesting to kind of look at that, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got to get into Joker next time because that's some good stuff.
So, yeah, I know.
we didn't even get to
get to Joker.
Look up Lunch.
I'm so sorry.
You'll love it.
Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for Weave, and we'll see you next Wednesday.